Imagine a darkness so profound it feels like a heavy velvet blanket pressing gently against the edges of your awareness. This is not the empty darkness of a starless sky, but the rich, dense, ancient dark of the deep earth. Here, miles beneath the surface, there is a quiet, unimaginable power. Heat that radiates like a submerged sleeping sun. Pressure that folds solid rock like soft yielding clay. And in this immense, silent crucible, something miraculous is happening. Atoms are shifting, aligning, locking together in a perfect, unbreakable dance. They are forming something pure, something that captures light even where no light exists. As you settle into this space, breathing in the quiet stability of the deep earth, allow your muscles to match this heavy, peaceful stillness. You're sinking into a place where time slows down to a glacial rhythmic pulse. The rush of the day above cannot reach you here. As we journey through these ancient crystalline corridors tonight, exploring the brilliant, quiet secrets of diamonds, you do not need to hold on to any of this. You do not need to try to remember. Let your mind soften, like snow melting into a dark, slow-moving river. Let the ideas and images drift through your consciousness, shimmering for a moment before fading away. What stays, stays. What slips away quietly into the night. You're just a gentle passenger on this slow river of light and stone. Let your breathing become a slow, rhythmic tide. With every exhale, release another layer of the day. With every inhale, draw in the cool, clear stillness of crystal. Just listen to the sound of the words. Let them paint pictures behind your closed eyes. Let them guide you into a state of profound, undisturbed rest. The pressure of the world above is gone. There is only the slow, beautiful unfolding of time and the quiet brilliance of the Earth's deepest secrets, waiting to be revealed in the dark. Far below the green forests and the rolling oceans, roughly 100 miles beneath the crust of the Earth, lies the lithospheric mantle. It is a realm of unimaginable heat, reaching up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet paradoxically, it is a place of profound creation rather than destruction. Here, scattered atoms of pure carbon find themselves caught in a vice of immense pressure, millions of times greater than the gentle atmospheric pressure we feel on our skin. In this quiet, intense embrace, the carbon atoms are forced closer and closer together. They bond in a perfect three-dimensional tetrahedral lattice. This structure is the hidden secret to the diamond. Every atom shares its electrons with 4 neighbours, creating a continuous, unbreakable web of connection. It is a beautiful irony that out of extreme pressure, the Earth produces its most perfectly organised, tranquil and clear creation. These stones are born in the absolute dark, yet they are destined to hold the light. They are the Earth's way of turning immense stress into flawless permanence, a gentle reminder that even the most intense forces can yield something of breathtaking clarity and peace. As these perfect lattices form, they wait. They wait through epochs and eras, completely undisturbed by the shifting of continents or the rising and falling of seas far above them. The diamonds we hold today are not merely stones, they are ancient travellers, vast capsules of deep time. The youngest diamonds on Earth are hundreds of millions of years old, born when the world was a vastly different, unrecognisable place. But the oldest among them have existed for over 3 billion years. They formed when the Earth was still a young, turbulent sphere, long before the first primitive plants ever reached for the warmth of the sun. To touch a diamond is to touch the dawn of the planet itself. They have rested in silent meditation through the entire history of life on the surface, holding their breath in the deep dark. They are silent, unblinking witnesses to the slow, majestic turning of geological time, offering a profound sense of perspective. Your own worries and the fleeting, hurried moments of the day seem to dissolve into mist when placed next to a quiet stone that has existed for billions of peaceful years. But how do these deep earth sleepers ever reach the light of day? They do not rise slowly. They are carried upward in rare, ancient volcanic eruptions known as kimberlite pipes. Imagine a sudden, powerful elevator of liquid magma surging up from the depths, carrying with it a cargo of precious, indestructible stones. These eruptions are unlike the slow-moving lava we see today. They are swift, deep-rooted phenomena, moving at incredible speeds toward the surface. The magma acts as a protective carriage, sweeping the diamonds up so quickly that the high temperatures cannot melt them back into simple dust. Once this molten rock breaches the surface, it cools, forming a massive deep blue or green geological formation called kimberlite. The violent eruption is over in a geological heartbeat, and the rock settles into a long, quiet sleep once more, safely cradling the diamonds within its hard matrix. The journey ends, replaced by millions of years of gentle erosion, as rain, wind, and water slowly wear away the host rock to reveal the clear, shining treasures hidden within. Within that protective rock lies a substance of unparalleled quiet resilience. The name diamond itself whispers of this unyielding strength, derived from the ancient Greek word adamus, meaning invincible or untamable. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, which ranks the scratch resistance of minerals from 1 to 10, the diamond sits comfortably alone at the very apex, a perfect 10. But this number does not fully capture its absolute supremacy. A diamond is not merely slightly harder than the next hardest mineral, corundum, which includes beautiful sapphires and rubies. It is exponentially harder. In fact, it is many times harder than any other natural material on Earth. The only thing in nature capable of scratching a diamond is another diamond. This incredible, steadfast hardness comes entirely from that tightly bonded, perfect atomic structure we envisioned deep in the mantle. There is a deep, comforting safety in this thought. The diamond is impervious to the gentle wear of time, unbothered by the elements, holding its shape and its polished perfection indefinitely. It is a symbol of enduring quiet stability in a world of constant swirling change. Yet for all its unparalleled hardness and brilliant light-catching clarity, the chemical makeup of a diamond is remarkably humble. It is composed of a single simple element, pure carbon. It is a gentle, almost poetic truth of chemistry that the very same element that makes up the soft, dark graphite in a simple wooden pencil is exactly the same material that forms the invincible diamond. The difference between the dark, easily crumbled graphite and the brilliantly clear, unbreakable diamond lies entirely in the microscopic arrangement of their atoms. In graphite, carbon atoms arrange themselves in flat, sliding sheets, easily peeling away from one another like pages in a book. But in the diamond, they hold hands tightly in all directions, supporting one another equally. It is a beautiful lesson in the power of connection and underlying structure. The essence of the material is exactly the same, but the way it is put together changes everything. It shows us that even the most common, fundamental building blocks of life, when aligned with quiet purpose and under the right conditions, can transform into something of extraordinary and lasting beauty. Our journey following the path of carbon does not end within the deep, warm layers of our home planet. The quiet creation of diamonds is a truly cosmic phenomenon. Far beyond the Earth, out in the vast, freezing silence of the cosmos, diamonds are drifting smoothly through the darkness. Scientists have discovered microscopic diamonds, known as nanodiamonds, embedded deep within ancient meteorites that have gently fallen to Earth from the asteroid belt. These tiny, invisible crystals are older than our solar system itself. They were originally forged in the spectacular, brilliant deaths of distant stars, blown out into the interstellar medium by exploding supernovae. For billions of years, these tiny, perfect crystals of stardust drifted through the silent, empty spaces between galaxies, before becoming incorporated into the swirling dust clouds that eventually formed our sun and our planets. When you look up at the night sky, you're not just seeing spheres of burning gas. You're looking out into an infinite ocean where countless invisible diamonds are silently floating, through the cold, peaceful vacuum of space, carrying the ancient memory of dying stars. If the thought of microscopic stardust diamonds drifting through the void feels vast, let your mind drift gently toward a scale that is truly planetary. 40 light-years away from our own solar system, in the constellation of Cancer, orbits a strange and marvellous world known to astronomers as 55 Cancri E. This fascinating exoplanet is about twice the size of Earth, but its composition is vastly, beautifully different. Because it formed in a region of its solar system exceptionally rich in carbon, scientists believe that a significant portion of the planet's mass consists of pure solid diamond. Imagine an entire world, a massive silent sphere with a deep crust and heavy mantle forged largely of crystalline diamond, gently turning in the light of its host star. It is a silent, heavy world, gleaming with an invisible brilliance under its thick, swirling atmosphere. Just envisioning this massive, quiet jewel suspended in the dark, endless velvet of deep space is enough to quiet the restless mind. It reminds us of the endless, creative, and delightfully strange possibilities of the universe, where entire worlds can be sculpted from the very gem we find so precious here on Earth. Closer to home, within the distant, quiet boundaries of our own solar system, diamonds may be falling like gentle rain. On the freezing, distant ice giants, Neptune and Uranus, the atmospheric conditions are uniquely perfect for a beautiful, hidden meteorological phenomenon. Deep within the thick, swirling blue atmospheres of these planets, there are massive concentrations of methane gas, a simple pairing of carbon and hydrogen. As you descend thousands of miles into these alien atmospheres, the pressure and temperature steadily, heavily rise. At a certain profound depth, the extreme conditions squeeze the methane molecules so tightly that the carbon atoms are stripped away. These liberated carbon atoms then bond together, forming tiny diamonds that slowly, gracefully sink downward through the dense fluid mantle towards the planetary core. It is a quiet, continuous, unseen downpour of precious stones, falling in the dark, heavy oceans of these distant worlds. A slow-motion rain of diamonds whispering through the depths of space, a peaceful and majestic storm that has been falling silently for billions of years. And yet, the cosmos has still grander diamond structures resting quietly in its dark, endless gallery. When a star like our Sun reaches the very end of its long, bright life, it gracefully sheds its outer layers and leaves behind a dense, glowing, cooling core known as a white dwarf. 50 light-years from Earth, nestled in the constellation of Centaurus, there is a white dwarf star named BPM 37093. Over billions of years, as this dead star has slowly, peacefully cooled in the quiet dark, the intense pressure at its core has caused the carbon within it to crystallize. The result is a diamond of unimaginable, mind-bending proportions. Astronomers affectionately call this sleeping star Lucy. The crystallized core is estimated to be 2,500 miles across and weighs roughly 10 billion trillion carats. It is a sleeping giant, a colossal, clear diamond heart beating softly in the cosmic ocean. It hums with a quiet, resonant frequency, a silent, soothing lullaby from a star that has finished its fiery work and now rests as a perfect crystalline monument to deep time and the enduring quiet beauty of the universe. Bringing our minds back down from the distant floating stars to the stones we can hold softly in our hands, we find a beautiful truth about perfection and character. While the purest diamond is completely colourless and flawlessly transparent, acting as a perfect empty window for light, some of the most beautiful and valuable diamonds in the world owe their unique mesmerizing charm to tiny, microscopic imperfections. During their long, dark sleep deep within the earth, if a few stray atoms of nitrogen happen to slip gently into the pure carbon lattice, they absorb blue light, causing the diamond to radiate a warm golden yellow glow. if trace amounts of boron are present in the deep earth during the stone's quiet formation, the diamond will capture the red light, glowing with a serene oceanic blue. Even extreme shifting pressure can cause the lattice to twist ever so slightly, creating a deep romantic pink or a rich, soothing red. These magnificent colours are born from the gentle intrusion of the outside world into the pure structure. They remind us that absolute clinical perfection is not the only path to profound beauty. It is the slight variations, the tiny, unique elements of character that give these ancient stones their rare, breathtaking soul, making them a warm and wonderful focal point as you drift gently, deeply into sleep. That same trace of boron that gives a diamond its serene oceanic blue colour holds another, even more mysterious secret, one that only reveals itself when the lights are entirely extinguished. If you were to take a deeply coloured blue diamond, such as the legendary Hope diamond, and place it in a room bathed in ultraviolet light, the stone would silently drink in that invisible energy. Then, the moment you flip the switch and plunge the room into absolute total darkness, the stone does not simply fade into the black. Instead, it begins to glow. It emits a deep, embers in a hearth red light, a mesmerizing visual echo known to scientists as phosphorescence. This slow, steady release of stored energy can last for several minutes, glowing softly like a quiet, forgotten coal in a midnight fire. It is as if the stone possesses a deep physical memory of the light it has absorbed, slowly exhaling it back into the silence of the room. There is something deeply comforting about a stone that refuses to succumb instantly to the dark, keeping a warm, glowing secret safe within its absolute centre, long after the surrounding world has gone to sleep. When the morning sun finally returns, catching the polished surface of a clear diamond, the stone performs a breathtaking manipulation of physics and geometry. Because of its incredible density, a diamond has one of the highest refractive indices of any transparent material naturally found on Earth. When a single beam of light, travelling through the air at an astonishing 186,000 miles per second, enters the dense, crystalline atmosphere of the diamond, it hits a sudden, beautiful wall of resistance. The light is instantly slowed down to less than half its original speed, drastically bending as it crosses the threshold. It travels through the flawless interior, striking the precisely angled internal facets, which act as a hall of microscopic perfect mirrors. The light bounces from wall to wall, trapped momentarily in a glowing geometric dance, before being gathered and reflected back out to your eye. It is a masterpiece of total internal reflection, a silent, instantaneous symphony where a single ray of sunlight is caught, slowed, folded, and returned with a magnificent, blazing clarity that brightens the entire room. As we journey from the complex mathematical architecture of light back into the quiet, heavy history of the stones themselves, notice how your own breathing has naturally found a steady, unhurried rhythm. The body grows a little heavier, the mind softens, and you can simply drift along the gentle current of these stories. Nothing needs to be held too tightly. You're safe to just listen, to let the images rise and fall like the slow rhythmic swelling of the sea. This gentle rocking rhythm carries us across the ocean to the sprawling dusty plains of South Africa in the early 20th century, where the earth yielded a stone of truly incomprehensible scale. During a routine afternoon inspection at the famous Premier Mine, the superintendent was walking the grounds when he noticed a bright flash of light reflecting from the steep dirt wall of the open pit. Using nothing more than his pocket knife, he dug out what looked like a massive, jagged piece of ordinary glass. It was, in fact, the Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality rough diamond ever discovered in human history, weighing a staggering 3,106 carats. To hold it would be like holding a heavy heart of pure, solid ice, a crystal so large it would fill the entire palm of your hand and overflow your fingers. Its scale was so magnificent, so absurdly vast, that its eventual journey across the ocean to England required a beautifully quiet deception. While a heavily guarded decoy ship made a grand, highly publicised voyage across the Atlantic to distract potential thieves, the priceless, incomparable Cullinan was simply wrapped up, placed inside a plain, unadorned cardboard box, and sent through the ordinary everyday registered mail. It travelled silently and safely alongside mundane letters, postcards, and simple parcels, a sleeping giant wrapped in the quiet, perfect anonymity of the everyday world. Finding such a sleeping giant is a monumental task, for diamonds do not naturally advertise their presence in the vastness of the Earth's heavy crust. Instead, geologists seeking these hidden subterranean chambers look for a trail of vibrant, colourful breadcrumbs scattered in the dirt. When the ancient volcanic pipes surged upward from the deep mantle millions of years ago, they did not only carry clear diamonds, they brought with them a magnificent menagerie of other deep earth minerals. These are known as indicator minerals, the quiet, loyal companions of the diamond. Prospectors carefully wash the sandy riverbeds and glacial drifts, searching for the deep blood-red flash of pyrup garnets, the vivid mossy green of chrome diopside, and the dark, heavy, metallic grains of ilmenite. These colourful stones are far more abundant than diamonds, and they act as a vibrant halo spreading out from the hidden kimberlite pipes. It is a beautiful, cooperative secret held by the Earth. The rich, deep reds and greens point the way to the flawless, clear centre, a gentle reminder that the path to something profound and rare is often marked by a scattering of quiet, colourful clues that guide us exactly where we need to be. When that clear centre is finally revealed and masterfully shaped, it offers more than just the brilliant return of white light. It offers a mesmerizing phenomenon that jewelers poetically refer to as fire. This colourful fire is the physical result of dispersion. As pure white light enters the dense stone and slows down, the different wavelengths of colour that make up that white light bend at slightly different specific angles. The diamond acts as an incredibly efficient three-dimensional prism. It gently pulls the white light apart, fanning it out into its fundamental constituent spectral colours. As you slowly turn a faceted diamond under a single warm source of light, you will see sudden, sharp flashes of pure azure blue, deep ruby red, and brilliant emerald green dancing across its surface. You're literally watching the unweaving of light itself. The stone captures the chaotic, invisible energy of the room and organises it into a miniature fleeting rainbow, offering a continuous silent fireworks display that exists entirely within the cool, tranquil boundaries of a single held breath. Yet, the true power of this perfect carbon lattice extends far beyond its ability to cast beautiful, hypnotic rainbows in quiet, warmly lit rooms. If we shift our perspective from the grand, glittering jewels of history down to the heavy, microscopic industrial scale, we find a material of unparalleled utility and grounding strength. The vast majority of diamonds mined from the earth are not clear enough, large enough, or flawless enough to ever become the centerpieces of rings or crowns. Instead, these humble, cloudy, or heavily included stones, often known as bought or industrial diamonds, perform the hardest, most demanding work on the planet. Crushed into a fine, abrasive dust, or carefully embedded into the heavy steel teeth of massive industrial drills, they bite back into the Earth's crust, slicing through solid, ancient granite and dense modern concrete as if it were soft, warm butter. There is a profound, grounding poetry hidden in this fact. The very material born from the immense crushing pressure of the deep earth is exactly the same tool we use to gently, persistently carve our way back down into it. It forms an endless, beautiful loop of strength, a quiet testament to the idea that true resilience is not always polished, perfect, and placed on display. Often, it is quietly performing the deepest, most difficult tasks in the dark, asking for no recognition at all. You do not need to try to memorize these intricate dances of light colour and heavy stone. Let the sound of the words simply wash over you, just as perfect acoustic waves ripple softly through the quiet evening air. Your shoulders can drop a fraction of an inch, your jaw can naturally unclench, and your physical body can simply sink deeper into the soft, welcoming comfort of this exact moment. Imagine that quiet evening air being moved with absolute crystalline perfection. Because a diamond is incredibly stiff, yet astonishingly lightweight, it possesses the perfect physical properties to handle the invisible physics of sound. In the world's most advanced high-fidelity audio speakers, the tweeter domes, the incredibly delicate vibrating parts responsible for producing the highest, most crystalline notes of music, are sometimes meticulously crafted from pure, laboratory-grown diamond. In a traditional speaker, as the dome vibrates many thousands of times a second to push the air and create sound waves, the material often flexes and warps ever so slightly, creating microscopic distortions in the music. But a diamond dome remains perfectly, rigidly still within its movement, pushing the air with absolute, unyielding precision. The result is a sound wave of unparalleled clarity and purity. The hardest, most unforgiving substance on the entire planet is used to flawlessly reproduce the soft, soaring vibrations of a wooden cello string, or the gentle, breathy whisper of a human voice, seamlessly translating pure, cold mechanics into pure, warm emotion. We can zoom in even closer, shrinking our perspective all the way down to the very tip of a silver needle, resting in a quiet, dimly lit room. Long before the modern era of invisible digital audio, the soul of recorded music lived safely within the winding, microscopic canyons pressed into flat black vinyl records. To retrieve that trapped music, a stylus had to trace those delicate, undulating grooves with immense microscopic sensitivity. The very tip of that stylus was almost entirely crafted from a microscopic, perfectly polished splinter of diamond. As the heavy black vinyl spun on the turntable, the tiny diamond navigated the complex invisible geography of the groove, physically reading the microscopic bumps and valleys and vibrating in response. These tiny physical vibrations travelled up the needle and were miraculously amplified into sweeping orchestral symphonies, roaring guitars, or a quiet, solitary jazz piano playing softly in a smoky room. It is a beautiful juxtaposition of textures, times, and forces, the invincible, ancient, billion-year-old diamond gently dragging along a fragile modern ribbon of plastic, patiently reading the physical landscape of recorded time and singing it beautifully back out into the world. Let your mind drift gently away from the precise microscopic grooves of a spinning record and plunge once more into the unimaginable heavy depths of the planet itself. While most of the diamonds we have discussed are born about 100 miles beneath our resting feet, there is a rare, deeply mysterious class of stones known to geologists as super-deep diamonds. These incredible, resilient travellers originate at profound, crushing depths of 400 to 500 miles down, near the absolute boundary of the Earth's lower mantle. Their journey up to the surface is an epic, violent ascent through the dark. Because they form so incredibly deep within the Earth, they sometimes accidentally trap microscopic bubbles of their surrounding environment inside their crystal structure as they freeze into solid form. These tiny trapped flaws are called inclusions, and to those who study the Earth, they are vastly more valuable than the clearest, most flawless, perfect gem. Recently, a super-deep diamond was found carrying a tiny microscopic speck of a blue mineral called ringwoodite, which miraculously contained a significant amount of water. This tiny, beautifully flawed stone provided the very first direct evidence that locked deep within the crushing heat of the Earth's mantle, there are vast hidden oceans of subterranean water, perhaps holding more total water than all the blue surface oceans combined. The diamond acted as a flawless, unbreakable, transparent submarine, securely carrying a single precious drop of the deep Earth's hidden sea up through the dark and safely into the light. Just like that single, quiet drop of water held safely inside the ancient stone, you're held safely and warmly in this current moment. You can rest exactly where you are, without any need to change. Nothing needs to be polished. Nothing needs to be perfect. You're allowed to simply exist, heavy and calm, letting the slow, steady current of the evening carry you forward into rest. This gentle, unbothered acceptance perfectly mirrors the very beginning of humanity's long, complex relationship with these stones, a time long before they were ever cut, measured, or heavily studied. In the year 1866, on the warm, sun-baked sandy banks of the Orange River in South Africa, a 15-year-old boy named Erasmus Jacobs was simply exploring the landscape. He was walking leisurely along the water's edge, looking for interesting pebbles, when his eye was suddenly caught by a bright shining stone resting quietly in the dirt. He picked it up, dusted the river sand from its surface, and casually slipped it into his pocket. He took it home to his family's modest farm, where it sat openly on a wooden table, occasionally used by the children to play simple games, entirely unvalued and completely unnamed. It was just a pretty rock that caught the warm afternoon sun beautifully. It would eventually be identified as the famous Eureka diamond, the magnificent spark that ignited the great South African diamond rush, weighing over 21 carats. But in that quiet, sun-drenched moment on the farmhouse table, it possessed a different, much gentler kind of magic. It represented the pure, simple innocence of a child appreciating a piece of the earth simply because it was beautiful, long before it was weighed, measured, or assigned a heavy, complicated, worldly value. And as the afternoon sun faded on that farmhouse table, the diamond simply sat in the quiet dusk, unchanged by the shifting shadows, patiently waiting for the next chapter of its impossibly long journey to begin. That waiting often ends in the quiet, steady hands of a master cutter, an artisan who understands that even the most invincible stone in the world has a secret, subtle vulnerability. Despite a diamond's absolute supremacy and hardness, it possesses what gemologists refer to as cleavage planes. These are specific, microscopic directions within the dense carbon lattice, where the atomic bonds are spaced just slightly farther apart, held with a fraction less tension. For centuries, long before the invention of modern microscopic lasers, a cutter would spend weeks simply studying a rough, cloudy stone under a gentle, warm light. They would patiently turn it over and over, mapping these invisible internal fault lines in their mind. When the moment was perfectly right, they would place a dull steel blade against the stone and strike it with a single, precise, confident tap of a small wooden mallet. If the angle was true, the massive unbreakable diamond would instantly and softly cleave in two, falling open like the heavy pages of an ancient book, revealing the flawless, glittering ice trapped inside. It is a beautiful, quiet metaphor for approaching life's greatest obstacles. Immense, crushing force is rarely the answer, but rather a patient, gentle understanding of exactly where the natural seams lie. As these newly divided, shimmering stones were gathered and carried to the bustling ancient marketplaces of the world, they required a system of measurement that was as delicate and profoundly reliable as the gems themselves. Long before the advent of calibrated digital scales, merchants trading under the warm, dusty canopies of the Silk Road turned to the quiet wisdom of the natural world for a standard of absolute truth. They found it in the small, smooth, dark seeds of the carob tree. These simple botanical seeds were uniquely famous in the ancient world for their incredibly uniform size and remarkably consistent weight. A merchant could place a sparkling diamond on one side of a delicate brass balance scale and slowly, carefully add carob seeds to the other side until the brass arms hovered perfectly level in the still afternoon air. This gentle, organic practice gave birth to the word we still use today. The term carat, the universal, modern measure of a diamond's weight, is simply a soft linguistic echo of the carob seed. Every time a contemporary jeweller discusses the weight of a brilliant stone, they are unknowingly whispering the name of a quiet, humble tree that offered its small, consistent seeds to help humans weigh the glowing stars of the earth. Imagine a seed falling gently to the ground, and then let your mind widen to imagine a much heavier, more profound kind of falling. High above the peaceful canopy of trees, out in the silent, freezing black expanse of the solar system, massive iron meteorites drift slowly toward our atmosphere. When one of these ancient wanderers survives its fiery, blazing descent and strikes the rocky surface of the Earth, the impact creates a momentary, unimaginable spike in heat and pressure. In that microscopic fraction of a second, the ordinary graphite present within the meteorite is instantly shocked into a completely new, alien form of crystal. This rare extraterrestrial gem is known as lonsdaleite, or a hexagonal diamond. Unlike the classic cubic structure of the diamonds born safely deep within our own planet's mantle, lonsdaleite atoms arrange themselves in a tight, six-sided honeycomb pattern. Theoretical physics models suggest this cosmic architecture might actually make it significantly harder than any terrestrial diamond. They're incredibly rare, tiny golden brown grains scattered invisibly across vast ancient impact craters, serving as silent, enduring monuments to a violent, fleeting collision between the quiet Earth and the rushing, heavy heavens. As your mind wanders from the warm, dusty scales of ancient marketplaces to the fiery trails of falling stars, allow the physical boundaries of your body to soften deeply into the surface beneath you. You do not need to weigh these facts or hold them closely in your memory. Just let them fall softly through your awareness, like a gentle, rhythmic rain on a dark, calm ocean. Your breath is steady, and your resting pulse is a slow, quiet drum beat, guiding you further away from the waking world. The steady, comforting warmth of your resting body stands in beautiful, sharp contrast to another remarkable, hidden property of these ancient stones. If you were to take a genuine, unmounted diamond and press it gently against your lips or the sensitive skin of your cheek, it would feel surprisingly, startlingly cold to the touch. This is not because the stone itself generates a chill in the air, but because a pure carbon lattice is one of the most efficient thermal conductors in the known universe. It transfers heat energy up to 5 times faster than solid, heavy copper. When the diamond touches your warm skin, it rapidly and silently draws the heat away from your body, distributing the warmth instantly throughout its flawless crystalline structure. Jewelers and gemologists often use this simple, quiet physics as a test of a stone's authenticity. If you place a diamond on a solid, smooth cube of ice, the stone acts like a microscopic, invisible funnel. It pulls the ambient heat from the warm room above and channels it down into the ice with such incredible speed that the diamond will literally sink into the frozen block, smoothly melting its way down into the dark. It is a stone that breathes temperature, constantly and perfectly adapting to the unseen thermal energy of the room around it. This constant microscopic exchange of energy reminds us that these stones are not completely static, frozen things. They have a deep, layered, and incredibly slow history of growth. Much like the concentric, expanding wooden rings of a great forest redwood that quietly records centuries of rainfall and drought, diamonds also grow in distinct sequential layers over millions of years, deep within the Earth's crushing mantle, as the environmental conditions, the ambient temperature, the surrounding pressure, the slow shifting of the chemical soup, gradually change. The carbon atoms attach themselves to the growing crystal in slightly varying patterns. This slow, majestic process is known as geological zoning. A single, clear diamond might hold a microscopic geometric record of entirely different geological eras within its invisible beating heart. Under highly specialized microscopic imaging, gemologists can actually see these growth zones, appearing as faint, beautiful, ghostly geometric outlines nested gracefully inside one another, like a series of smaller phantom diamonds resting quietly inside the larger whole. To look deeply into a diamond is to peer into an ancient three-dimensional calendar, a silent, locked diary documenting the slow, heavy breathing of the planet over billions of years. Sometimes, that heavy planetary breathing involves immense twisting tectonic forces that leave behind a breathtaking, colourful signature. In the remote, sun-scorched, dusty red wilderness of Western Australia lies the famous Argyle Mine, a place once renowned for producing the world's most coveted and deeply mysterious pink diamonds. Unlike the yellow or blue stones we explored earlier, which gain their beautiful colour from the gentle intrusion of foreign, outside elements, these rare pink gems are completely chemically pure. Their colour is not born from an impurity, but from a profound, ancient physical trauma. Millions of years ago, as these specific diamonds were slowly pushed toward the surface, the massive surrounding tectonic plates ground together with such immense, unimaginable force that the very atomic lattice of the carbon was permanently bent and warped. This microscopic twisting creates what scientists call plastic deformation. The skewed, bent, sliding structure absorbs light differently, softly returning a delicate rose petal pink or a deep, dusty crimson to our waiting eyes. It is a stunning realization that some of the most highly valued and beautiful objects on Earth are the direct result of ancient, immense stress, proving that extreme pressure does not just create unbreakable strength, it can also forge unparalleled, breathtaking grace. Sink a little deeper into the softness of your bed as you imagine that deep, rosy pink light filling the room. Let the colour wash warmly over the back of your closed eyelids, soothing and incredibly calm. Your muscles are unwinding entirely, letting go of any lingering tension from the day, falling away like a heavy coat slipping off your shoulders. There is nowhere else you need to be. You're floating peacefully on a slow river of quiet stories, perfectly safe, perfectly still. That deep, rosy light naturally evokes a warm sense of romance, a human emotion that has slowly, over centuries, intertwined itself with the unyielding permanence of these heavy stones. The tradition of presenting a diamond as a solemn, quiet promise of enduring love is surprisingly specific in its historical origin. While ancient Romans wore simple, heavy iron rings to symbolize a binding legal contract, the very first recorded instance of a diamond engagement ring appears in the quiet, candlelit courts of 15th century Europe. In the year 1477, Archduke Maximilian of Austria commissioned a delicate, hammered gold ring set with thin, flat pieces of rough diamond in the shape of the letter M. He gently presented it to Mary of Burgundy, setting a magnificent romantic precedent that would slowly ripple outward through the heavy tapestry of time. In an era when most of the world was lit only by the soft, flickering glow of hearths and tallow candles, the diamond was chosen because its profound ability to catch and hold the sparse light seemed almost magical. It was a permanent, undying spark pulled from the earth, meant to physically symbolize a quiet flame that would never be extinguished by the long passage of time. Yet bringing that perfect romantic spark to its ultimate brilliant life requires a quiet, deliberate sacrifice of the physical self. When a rough diamond is finally pulled from the heavy dirt, it often resembles a cloudy, unremarkable piece of washing soda or a dull, frosted lump of glass. To unlock the brilliant, light-catching geometry deeply hidden inside, a master cutter must be willing to grind away a massive, heavy portion of the stone's original body. On average, a rough diamond loses more than 50% of its total physical weight during the slow, painstaking process of cutting and polishing. More than half of the ancient billion-year-old stone is turned into a fine, microscopic dust that gently floats away, disappearing into the still air of the workshop. The cutter is not trying to greedily preserve the size or the mass of the stone. They are bravely sacrificing its physical volume to maximize its perfect relationship with the light. It is a profound, quiet lesson in the art of refinement. True brilliance often requires us to shed the heavy, unnecessary layers we have slowly accumulated over time, gracefully letting go of sheer weight in order to reveal a sharper, clearer, and far more radiant core. At the very centre of that radiant core, hidden entirely at the deepest, lowest point of a modern, round-cut diamond, lies a tiny, often overlooked architectural secret. If you were to look incredibly closely at the sharp, pointed bottom of the stone, the pavilion, you might easily assume it comes to a single, microscopically sharp physical point. However, in many masterfully cut stones, this sharp tip is deliberately, carefully levelled off by the cutter, creating a tiny, flat, microscopic facet parallel to the wide top of the diamond. This hidden, microscopic flaw is called the culet. It is placed there with a quiet, beautifully protective purpose. Because a diamond's crystal structure can be vulnerable to chipping or fracturing if struck precisely on a microscopically sharp, fine edge, the culet acts as a tiny, invisible shield. It protects the deepest, most delicate point of the gem from the gentle, everyday wear and tear of a long human lifetime. It is a beautiful touch of practical engineering mixed perfectly with high art. Even in the pursuit of ultimate light and sheer mathematical perfection, there is a quiet, necessary concession to the heavy vulnerability of the physical world, ensuring the stone remains whole, safe, and unbroken as it is passed warmly through the generations. The precise mathematics that determine the perfect sloping angle of that tiny culet and every other gleaming surface on the polished stone were born from the quiet, brilliant mind of a young engineering student sitting alone in a dim room. For centuries, diamonds were cut largely by intuition and feeling, shaped slowly by artisans trying to preserve their heavy weight rather than maximize their sparkle. But in 1919, a young mathematician and gemologist named Marcel Tolkowski published a groundbreaking, elegantly simple thesis titled Diamond Design. Working quietly with pencil and paper, Tolkowski treated the ancient diamond not just as a precious rock, but as a complex, invisible optical puzzle. Using the pure, unyielding laws of physics and light geometry, he calculated the exact, ideal proportions, the precise angles of the crown and the deep pavilion needed to capture the maximum amount of white light entering from above, bounce it perfectly around the interior mirrored walls, and return it to the eye as a blinding flash of pure fire and brilliance. He invented what is now universally known as the round brilliant cut, a stunning masterpiece of 57 perfectly aligned mathematical mirrors. He quietly transformed the cutting of a diamond from a traditional heavy craft into a precise luminous science, writing a flawless mathematical recipe for capturing the warm light of the sun and holding it forever in the palm of a resting hand. And as the light perfectly reflects off those 57 microscopic polished mirrors, it seems to softly illuminate a pathway deeper into the Earth's quiet mysteries, drawing us gently down past the realm of geometry and into the strange, unseen forces that continue to silently shape the world around us. While early mathematicians coaxed the clear diamond to reflect every ray of the sun, there exists a rare, naturally occurring variation that does the exact opposite. It is known as the carbonado, or the black diamond. Unlike its transparent cousins, a carbonado is entirely opaque, silently drinking in the light rather than returning it to the eye. Its surface is not a single, continuous, flawless crystal, but rather an incredibly dense, porous agglomeration of millions of microscopic diamond crystals fused tightly together in the dark. This chaotic, interlocking structure makes it exceptionally tough, capable of absorbing heavy impacts that would easily shatter a perfectly cleaved clear stone. But its true, quiet mystery lies in its origin. Geologists have never found a carbonado deep within the traditional volcanic kimberlite pipes. They are only ever discovered near the surface, resting quietly in the alluvial deposits of Brazil and the Central African Republic. Because they contain trace elements of nitrogen and hydrogen that closely match the chemical signature of interstellar space, Many scientists gently hypothesize that these dark, heavy stones were not born in the Earth at all. They may be the remnants of an ancient massive asteroid, a dark voyager from a distant supernova that crashed into our world billions of years ago, leaving behind these silent, shadow-filled stones as lasting evidence of its long journey through the freezing void. The thought of a dark stone enduring the fiery impact of an asteroid strike brings us to a fascinating, almost delicate vulnerability hidden within all diamonds, regardless of their colour or their origin. We naturally think of the hardest substance on Earth as entirely invincible, impervious to the fiery heat of the waking world. And indeed, deep within the oxygen-starved vacuum of the Earth's mantle, a diamond can easily, quietly withstand temperatures that would liquefy heavy steel. But if you were to introduce the invisible presence of pure oxygen, the story changes in a beautiful vanishing whisper. If a diamond is slowly heated in a heavily oxygenated environment to around 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, it does not melt. It does not turn into a glowing red-hot pool of liquid magma. Instead, the bonds holding the carbon lattice together simply, gracefully release. The solid carbon atoms bond with the oxygen in the air, turning instantly into an invisible gas. The diamond literally evaporates. It sublimates from the hardest physical object you can hold in your hand into a completely invisible breath of carbon dioxide, drifting away to mingle softly with the atmosphere. It is a profound, gentle reminder that even the most enduring, unyielding physical structures are ultimately temporary, capable of dissolving peacefully back into the thin, invisible air from which the world breathes, leaving absolutely no trace of their heavy existence behind. For the stones that escape this fiery evaporation and remain safely whole, their journey across the Earth is often governed by a much slower, softer force, the patient, endless flow of moving water. Not all diamonds remain permanently trapped in the hard blue rock of their violent volcanic birth. Over millions of years, the gentle, relentless patter of rain and the slow, heavy grinding of ancient glaciers wear down the towering volcanic pipes. The freed diamonds are washed gently into winding mountain streams and broad, slow-moving rivers. These are known as alluvial diamonds. For countless centuries, they tumble smoothly along the sandy riverbeds, surrounded by the quiet rushing of water. The journey is impossibly long, sometimes carrying the heavy stones hundreds of miles from their original deep earth origin. Along the way, the constant, gentle friction of the river sand acts as a natural microscopic polishing wheel. The rough, jagged edges of the raw crystal are slowly smoothed away by the water's soft, persistent touch. Eventually, these rivers empty into the vast, heavy oceans, depositing the gently rounded stones onto the quiet, shifting sands of the seafloor. It is a beautifully peaceful migration, a slow transition from the crushing, violent heat of the deep earth to the cool, rhythmic rocking of the ocean tides. As you envision those smooth stones resting quietly on the seafloor, notice how the tension in your own body is slowly washing away, carried off by the steady, rolling current of your breath. The muscles in your neck and shoulders are softening, yielding to gravity, settling into a deep, heavy comfort. You do not need to journey across oceans or deep into the earth to find peace. It is right here, in the quiet rhythm of your own resting state, waiting to simply be noticed. This accessible, quiet waiting perfectly mirrors a unique, peaceful patch of land in the rolling green hills of Arkansas. It is a place where the barrier between humanity and the deep earth is surprisingly, wonderfully thin. Known as the Crater of Diamond State Park, it is a vast, open, 37-acre ploughed field resting over the eroded surface of an ancient volcanic crater. Unlike the deeply excavated industrial mines of the world, this quiet field is entirely open to the public. Anyone can walk softly across the brown, freshly turned dirt and look for the telltale, brilliant gleam of a rough stone. When heavy, warm rainstorms wash over the park, the water gently sweeps away the lighter topsoil, leaving the heavier, loose diamonds resting perfectly clean and visible right on the surface. There is a beautiful, deeply democratic grace to this place. You do not need heavy machinery or an understanding of complex geology to discover something ancient and profound. You simply need a quiet afternoon, a slow, patient gaze, and the willingness to walk gently upon the earth, trusting that sometimes the world simply offers up its treasures to those who take the time to look closely at the ground beneath their feet. Yet, the human mind, in its endless quiet curiosity, has not simply settled for waiting for the earth to reveal its stones. It has learned to beautifully, patiently mimic the planet's deepest creative processes. In remarkably serene, humming laboratories around the world, scientists have mastered a process called chemical vapor deposition, a way to literally grow a diamond from the thin, invisible air. Inside a sealed, warm vacuum chamber, a tiny, microscopic sliver of a pre-existing diamond is placed softly at the bottom. The chamber is then filled with a carbon-rich gas, like methane, and gently warmed by a beam of microwave energy. This energy causes the gas to break down into a glowing, softly radiant plasma cloud. From this warm, glowing mist, pure carbon atoms begin to rain down, falling like invisible, microscopic snow onto the tiny diamond seed below. Atom by atom, layer by microscopic layer, the carbon bonds perfectly to the existing lattice. Over the course of several quiet weeks, a completely flawless, structurally perfect diamond slowly builds itself in the warm, glowing dark of the chamber. It is a process of extreme, delicate patience, a testament to human ingenuity creating something of absolute staggering permanence from a completely ephemeral floating cloud of gas. Once these perfect transparent stones are grown, whether forged in the deep earth or coaxed from a warm plasma cloud, they are sometimes enlisted to perform a task of unbelievable microscopic strength. In the world's most advanced physics laboratories, scientists use an instrument known as a diamond anvil cell. This device relies on two incredibly small, perfectly cut diamonds, their flat, polished tips facing one another with just a microscopic gap between them. When a tiny, invisible droplet of water or a microscopic speck of a mineral is placed gently between these two tips, the diamonds are slowly, carefully pressed together. Because the tips are so incredibly small and the diamonds themselves so impossibly rigid, the pressure generated at that microscopic point becomes astronomically high. Without the stones shattering or bending, they can effortlessly recreate the exact crushing pressure found at the very center of the Earth, or even the unimaginably heavy core of the giant planet Jupiter. Through the flawless, transparent window of the diamond, scientists can calmly sit and watch how ordinary matter behaves under these extreme conditions. They can watch liquid water magically freeze into strange, hot, solid forms of ice, simply by observing the universe through the invincible, quiet lens of a compressed stone. Let your mind rest on that image of the clear, invincible lens for a moment. Just as the stone remains perfectly steady under unimaginable pressure, your mind can find a steady, quiet center amidst the swirling thoughts of the day. You do not need to hold back the pressure of the world. You simply let it flow around you, maintaining your own soft, glowing center, undisturbed and completely at rest. That idea of a soft, glowing center brings us to a beautiful, subtle interaction between the stone and the vast, bright sky above. We know that diamonds masterfully bend and reflect the visible spectrum of light, but some stones have a quiet, hidden relationship with the invisible energy of the sun. Approximately 1/3 of all natural diamonds exhibit a fascinating phenomenon known as fluorescence. When these specific stones are exposed to the invisible ultraviolet rays naturally present in everyday sunlight, the trace elements locked within their carbon lattice become gently excited. They absorb the invisible UV radiation and instantly translate it into visible light, emitting a soft, ethereal blue glow. To the naked human eye, looking at the stone in the bright afternoon sun, this subtle blue fluorescence beautifully counteracts any faint yellow tint the diamond might hold, making the stone appear paradoxically whiter, clearer, and more like a drop of pure frozen water. It is a silent, ongoing conversation between the deep, heavy earth and the high, invisible energies of the atmosphere. A magical trick of light that only reveals itself when the stone is lifted out of the dark and warmly bathed in the light of the day. That conversation with invisible energy is not limited to ultraviolet light. If we return our attention to those incredibly rare, deeply oceanic blue diamonds, the ones tinted by the gentle intrusion of the element boron, we find an electrical secret that completely separates them from all other stones. An ordinary, perfectly clear diamond is an exceptional electrical insulator. Its tightly bound electrons are locked so securely in their geometric dance that an electrical current simply cannot pass through the stone. It hits a perfect, unyielding wall. But when boron slips into the lattice during those ancient formative years, it brings with it one fewer electron than carbon. This creates microscopic, invisible gaps, or holes, in the perfect atomic structure. These tiny, floating empty spaces allow electrons to softly move and slide through the crystal. Because of this, a natural blue diamond is actually a semiconductor. It can safely and smoothly carry an electrical current. It is profoundly strange to imagine that a priceless ancient gem, resting quietly on a velvet pillow, holds the exact same functional energetic capability as the silicon chips powering the modern world. It is a beautiful merging of ancient geological artistry and complex invisible physics, held entirely within a stone the colour of a quiet, deep sea. The invisible waves of energy travelling through these stones are not always electrical. Some waves are purely physical, born from the simple, physical movement of sound. We briefly touched upon how diamond domes are used to push the air in delicate audio speakers, but the way sound behaves inside the diamond itself is truly staggering. Sound, at its core, is simply a vibration passing from one atom to the next, like a ripple moving across the surface of a still pond. Because the carbon atoms in a diamond are packed so incredibly tightly together and held by such unimaginably stiff, strong bonds, a physical vibration transfers between them with almost instantaneous speed. If you were to tap the side of a massive diamond, the sound wave would travel through the solid crystal at an astonishing velocity of nearly 40,000 feet per second. That is more than 35 times faster than sound travels through the open air, and significantly faster than it moves through heavy steel or solid titanium. It is the absolute highest acoustic velocity of any known material. A diamond is, quite literally, the fastest physical messenger on the planet, capable of transmitting a gentle physical whisper from one side of its structure to the other in a microscopic, perfect fraction of a heartbeat. As we trace the path of that lightning-fast physical whisper, let us allow it to echo outward, leaving the heavy, solid stones behind and drifting gently up into the freezing, boundless expanse of the winter sky. In the coldest, quietest regions of the world, such as the high, silent plains of Antarctica or the deep, dark forests of the Arctic Circle, the atmosphere itself occasionally borrows the name and the visual poetry of the deep earth. When the air temperature drops far below freezing, but the sky remains beautifully, perfectly clear, the sparse moisture hanging in the atmosphere instantly freezes into microscopic, unattached crystals of ice. These tiny, perfectly formed geometric prisms float, suspended in the freezing air, too light to fall, drifting slowly on the gentle, invisible currents of the wind. When the low golden light of the morning sun strikes this floating cloud of ice, the air itself seems to ignite with millions of tiny, brilliant, flashing sparks of light. Meteorologists poetically call this quiet, beautiful phenomenon diamond dust. It is not made of carbon, and it was not born in the crushing heat of the mantle, but in its perfect floating geometry and its breathtaking ability to catch and break the light, it is a perfect ephemeral reflection of the deep Earth's most enduring creation. And as those tiny floating prisms of ice slowly drift and turn in the freezing golden light, they cast a soft reflective glow over the sprawling quiet landscape, inviting us to look even deeper into the ways these brilliant structures have shaped the mythology and the heavy history of the world resting quietly below. That mythological connection to the heavens was deeply felt by the earlier scholars of the ancient world. Long before the invisible, microscopic architecture of carbon was mapped or understood, philosophers looking at these clear, cold stones felt they were holding something explicitly celestial in their hands. In the 1st century, the Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder sat in his quiet, candlelit study and wrote extensively about the natural world. When he turned his mind to the diamond, he concluded that they were nothing less than the physical, frozen tears of the gods, weeping softly over the earth. Alternatively, he mused, they might be tiny, indestructible splinters that had broken off from falling stars as they streaked across the dark velvet of the night sky. To hold a diamond was to hold a captured fragment of the cosmos, a tiny glowing piece of the infinite suspended in human time. It is a profoundly beautiful poetic intuition. Even without the modern knowledge of supernovae and ancient meteorite impacts, the ancient mind instinctively recognized that a stone this pure, this hard, and this radiant must somehow be tied to the vast wheeling mysteries of the stars hanging silently above. Far to the east, thousands of miles away from the quiet libraries of Rome, an even older mythology was taking root in the lush, humid river valleys of ancient India. This is the region where diamonds were first discovered by humanity, resting quietly in the alluvial mud after heavy monsoon rains. The ancient Sanskrit texts did not see the stones as gentle tears, but as the embodiment of absolute, unyielding cosmic power. They called the diamond Vajra, a powerful word that simultaneously translates to both diamond and thunderbolt. According to their rich, vibrant mythology, diamonds were forged in the exact moment a bolt of lightning struck the solid rock of the earth. They believed the blinding flash of the sky was permanently caught and instantly crystallized within the stone. When you consider the blinding, instantaneous flash of a polished gem catching the afternoon sun, the comparison is remarkably intuitive. It represents a beautiful bridging of the elements, the fierce, electric energy of the stormy sky descending into the heavy, grounded patience of the deep earth, locking together in a quiet, unbreakable union. This enduring global belief in a celestial origin is born from the highly specific way the stone interacts with the light, possessing a visual quality that geologists formally call an adamantine luster. In the scientific study of minerals, luster describes how light reflects off a surface. Quartz has a glassy luster, resembling a simple windowpane. Pearls have a soft, glowing, pearlescent luster. But a diamond sits entirely alone in its category. The adamantine luster is the absolute highest, most brilliant shine possible for any non-metallic substance on the planet. It gives the surface of the stone an almost impossibly crisp, hard reflection, often making it look as though it is coated in a permanent microscopic layer of heavy, wet oil or liquid light. It is a visual paradox that the human eye naturally lingers on. The stone is incredibly dry, forged in blistering heat, and completely solid, yet its surface constantly ripples with a wet, gleaming fluidity, forever catching the softest, lowest ambient light in the room and amplifying it with a bright, crystalline echo. As you picture that bright, wet-looking surface in your mind's eye, notice how your own breathing naturally deepens, matching the slow, steady rhythm of a gently swaying pendulum. Your muscles are unwinding, yielding completely to the heavy, comforting pull of the bed beneath you. The day is entirely over, and you're simply floating softly on a river of quiet facts. While the diamond masterfully creates the optical illusion of being wet, it actually completely physically rejects water. a diamond is naturally hydrophobic. If you were to take a perfectly clean, polished stone and place a single drop of pure rainwater on its flat surface, the water would not spread out or soak in. Instead, it would bead up perfectly, forming a tiny, trembling, spherical dome, before rolling smoothly away without leaving even the faintest damp trace behind. Yet, in a fascinating display of chemical preference, the diamond is simultaneously lipophilic, meaning it naturally strongly attracts greases and oils. This is why a diamond ring worn every day slowly loses its bright, sharp fire. It naturally pulls the microscopic natural oils from human skin, creating a soft, cloudy film over its surface, patiently waiting to be wiped clean so it can breathe the light once more. This strange, silent affinity for oils was not merely a curious chemical quirk. It completely transformed the history of mining in the late 19th century. In the sprawling, dusty sorting facilities of South Africa, miners were faced with the monumental task of separating a few tiny, translucent diamonds from thousands of tons of crushed, worthless grey gravel. Instead of relying purely on human eyesight, ingenious engineers built long, sloping, gently vibrating tables and covered them thickly in heavy, sticky grease. As the crushed gravel was continuously washed over these tables with a steady stream of water, the ordinary rocks, which were wet from the water, slid harmlessly right over the grease and tumbled away. But the moment a water-repelling, oil-loving diamond touched the table, it instantly, securely stuck to the heavy grease. The water washed over it in a quiet rush, leaving the precious stone safely anchored. It is a profoundly simple, elegant solution. By quietly understanding the invisible, natural desires of the stone, the miners allowed the earth to gently sort itself, using the flow of water and the stickiness of grease to catch the invincible stars hidden in the dirt. Long before these elaborate extraction methods or the invention of the grease table, the ancient world engaged with these stones in a much more direct, unadulterated manner. When the Roman nobility first acquired diamonds through the winding, dusty trade routes of the Silk Road, they never attempted to cut or shape them. They lacked the tools to scratch the adamantine surface, but more importantly, they felt that altering the stone would somehow break its quiet magic. The very first diamond rings in recorded history featured the raw, rough stones exactly as the deep earth had formed them, as perfect, natural octahedrons. An octahedron is a stunning, natural geometric shape consisting of two four-sided pyramids attached seamlessly base to base, resembling an eight-sided, three-dimensional diamond kite. It is incredibly moving to imagine a heavy, forged iron ring from the 2nd century, holding a completely uncut natural crystal. The Romans wore the exact architecture of the Earth's deep mantle on their fingers, recognizing that true, enduring beauty does not always need to be faceted, polished, or forced into a new shape by human hands. It is often most powerful exactly as it naturally arrives in the light. Just as the ancient world accepted the stone exactly as it was formed, you can accept your current state of rest exactly as it is. There is no need to force sleep, no need to perfectly align your thoughts. Just let the mind soften and drift. When the art of cutting finally did evolve to its absolute peak, centuries after the Romans, it revealed a hidden geometric poetry locked inside the round, brilliant cut. If a modern master cutter aligns every single one of the 57 facets to a level of absolute microscopic perfection, achieving perfect symmetry and proportion, a stunning optical phenomenon occurs. When viewed from above through a special magnifying scope, the perfectly aligned returning light reveals a crisp geometric pattern of 8 perfect symmetrical arrows radiating outward from the centre. When the same stone is turned over and viewed gently from the bottom, the light forms 8 perfectly proportioned floating hearts. This incredibly rare exact alignment is known in the quiet laboratories of gemology as hearts and arrows. It is not something that can be easily seen with the naked eye. It is a secret, invisible masterpiece of light engineering, a quiet reward for absolute patience and microscopic devotion to balance and symmetry. The unmatched clarity and structural integrity of a perfectly aligned carbon lattice extend far beyond the velvet display cases of jewelers, reaching out into the silent, hostile, freezing reaches of our solar system. In 1978, NASA launched the Pioneer Venus multiprobe, a daring mission designed to plunge directly into the thick, toxic, crushing atmosphere of our neighbouring planet. The scientists needed a window for their highly sensitive infrared radiometer, an eye that could peer through the dense, heavy clouds of sulfuric acid without melting, warping, or blocking the vital infrared light. Traditional glass or quartz would instantly shatter or dissolve under the unimaginable pressure and heat of the Venusian sky. The only material in the entire world capable of surviving the descent while maintaining perfect, transparent clarity was a massive, flawless diamond. As the probe fell slowly through the alien golden clouds millions of miles from home, a diamond window, forged in the deep pressures of Earth, calmly and quietly stared out into the crushing pressure of another world. It served as an unbreakable, clear bridge between humanity's quiet curiosity and the violent, swirling mysteries of the deep solar system. While that flawless window stared out into the vastness of an alien planet, modern scientists are now using incredibly flawed diamonds to peer deep into the invisible, microscopic building blocks of reality itself. In the pristine, humming laboratories of quantum physics, researchers actively seek out synthetic diamonds that contain a very specific microscopic error known as a nitrogen vacancy center. This occurs when a single carbon atom is missing from the lattice and a stray nitrogen atom is sitting right next to the empty space. This microscopic atomic void acts as an incredibly sensitive trap for individual electrons. By shining a gentle green laser onto this tiny void, scientists can actually manipulate the quantum state of a single, isolated electron, turning the diamond into a qubit, the fundamental building block of a quantum computer. Even more astonishingly, this tiny glowing pink defect is the most sensitive magnetic sensor ever discovered. It is so delicate that when placed near a living human cell, it can detect the unimaginably faint, microscopic magnetic field generated by a single neuron firing in the brain. The hardest, oldest stone is being used to gently map the invisible, fleeting electrical spark of human thought. Your own mind, capable of such vast and intricate thought, can now simply rest. The electrical sparks can slow, the thinking can fade into a soft glowing hum, like a quiet room at the end of a long day. And despite all of our advanced microscopic technology and our ability to map the stars in the brain, some beautiful stones remain completely, peacefully lost to time. Consider the gentle mystery of the Florentine diamond. It was a massive, mesmerizing gem, glowing with a soft, pale yellow light, intricately cut with 9 sides and over 100 complex facets. For centuries, it moved quietly through the highest, most heavily guarded courts of Europe, from the Medici family in Florence to the crown jewels of the Austrian Empire. It survived wars, shifting borders, and the rise and fall of great dynasties. Yet, in 1918, following the end of the First World War, the stone vanished entirely from recorded history. It was never broken, it was never definitively sold, it simply disappeared into the deep, heavy currents of time. Today, the Florentine diamond is sleeping somewhere in the world. It might be resting in a forgotten, dusty velvet box in a quiet attic, or locked away in a dark, silent vault, patiently waiting for the day it will be brought back into the sun. It is a beautiful reminder that the world still holds quiet mysteries, and that some things are allowed to simply rest, unseen and undisturbed, in the peaceful dark. That beautiful reminder of things resting unseen in the dark connects directly to the historical quiet art of bringing a stone's brilliant light back to the surface. For centuries, the journey out of the rough earth involved a profoundly hypnotic humming rotation. In the late 15th century, a Flemish diamond cutter revolutionized the way humanity interacted with these invincible stones by inventing a tool of mesmerizing, elegant simplicity. It was called the scaphe. Imagine a heavy, perfectly flat circular disc of solid cast iron, mounted horizontally on a balanced spindle. The cutter would coat this heavy iron wheel with a fragrant, smooth mixture of pure, cold-pressed olive oil and microscopic diamond dust. As the wheel spun at an incredible blurring speed, creating a low, steady, resonant hum in the quiet workshop, the artisan would gently press the rough stone against the oiled iron. Because only a diamond can cut another diamond, the microscopic dust suspended in the soft oil acted as millions of tiny, invisible chisels. The low humming of the heavy iron, the scent of the warm olive oil in the air, and the patient, steady hands of the cutter working for weeks on a single facet created an atmosphere of deep, meditative trance. It was a slow, beautiful friction, a gentle wearing away of the rough exterior to coax the trapped light to the surface, accompanied by a soothing, rhythmic vibration that echoed softly through the wooden floorboards of the shop. Once the wheel finally slowed and stopped its humming, and the stone was perfectly polished, evaluating its true internal colour required an environment of absolute unhurried peace. Even today, master gemologists do not rely on harsh, glaring artificial laboratory lights to judge a diamond's subtle, invisible hues. Instead, they patiently seek out the quiet, consistent softness of indirect sunlight. Specifically, they look for an open window facing entirely to the true north. North-facing light does not cast harsh, direct, blinding beams, nor does it create deep, obscuring shadows. It is a diffuse, perfectly even, and incredibly cool illumination. The grader takes a simple, matte white piece of folded paper, known traditionally as a briefka or a diamond flute, and places the stone gently in its crisp, bright crease. The paper acts as a clean, snowy backdrop, absorbing all visual distractions, while the cool, steady north light washes gently over the gem. In this quiet, deeply calm atmosphere, where dust motes drift slowly in the cool, steady beams, the diamond reveals its most honest, subtle self. It is a practice built entirely on profound stillness, waiting for the perfect, calm light to reveal a quiet truth that simply cannot be seen in the rush and glare of the midday sun. In the complete absence of that gentle northern light, when a room is plunged back into total, heavy darkness, some rough diamonds harbour a quiet, almost magical ability to conjure their own internal illumination. This is a rare, ghostly optical phenomenon known to physicists as triboluminescence. It is the spontaneous generation of light through simple physical friction. If you were to take certain rough, unpolished diamonds and gently, slowly rub their surfaces together in the pitch black, the mechanical energy of the stones sliding against one another is instantly converted into tiny, visible flashes of cold energy. The stones will begin to glow softly, emitting a faint ethereal blue or cool white light from within, resembling the gentle, rhythmic, silent blinking of a firefly in a warm summer forest. You do not need the immense, crushing pressure of the Earth's mantle or the blinding, fiery heat of a star to make them shine. You simply need a quiet, gentle touch in the dark. It is a stunning, intimate display of physics, where the ancient stones respond to the softest of human movements, with a glowing whisper of starlight, a hidden reservoir of energy waking up just for a fleeting moment before returning to a peaceful sleep. As you imagine those soft, glowing flashes fading gently back into the comfortable dark, feel the friction of your own day gently wearing away. The mechanical, busy energy of your thoughts is slowing down, easing into a quiet, frictionless, drifting glide. Your breath is a steady, soothing rhythm in the quiet room, and you can simply allow the current of these words to carry you, requiring no effort, no movement, and no resistance at all. This frictionless, smooth glide perfectly mirrors a revolutionary microscopic journey currently taking place within the quiet, brilliant corridors of modern medicine. When diamonds are crushed down to a scale thousands of times smaller than a single, fine grain of beach sand, they become nanodiamonds. These tiny, perfectly spherical carbon structures possess a beautifully smooth, entirely non-toxic surface. Because the complex human body recognizes pure carbon as a fundamental, friendly building block of biological life, it does not reject or fight these tiny stones. Scientists have discovered that they can gently attach life-saving medicine to the microscopic facets of a nanodiamond, turning the ancient gem into a tiny, perfect delivery vehicle. These invisible diamonds float smoothly and effortlessly through the flowing, warm river of the human bloodstream. They travel peacefully past healthy tissue, carrying their vital cargo directly to the specific cells that need healing the most. It is an extraordinary, humbling shift in scale and purpose. The hardest, most opulent stone in human history has been quietly transformed into a humble, microscopic servant, swimming silently through the currents of the body to deliver a precise, targeted drop of healing exactly where it is needed. Long before these invisible stones ever navigated the flowing, microscopic rivers of the human body, their larger counterparts spent thousands of years tumbling down the vast, roaring, winding rivers of the earth. When diamonds are washed out of their volcanic pipes and into the sweeping currents of major waterways, they embark on a slow, heavy, patient migration. Because a diamond is incredibly dense, significantly heavier than the ordinary quartz, silt, or river rocks bouncing along beside it, it behaves differently in the rushing water. As the river carves its persistent way through solid bedrock, the swirling, eddying currents often create smooth, cylindrical depressions in the stone floor known perfectly as potholes. When a heavy, tumbling diamond reaches one of these underwater craters, its sheer, heavy density causes it to drop completely out of the rushing current. It falls softly to the bottom of the smooth stone bowl, settling in the quiet, undisturbed dark beneath the rushing water. Over centuries, more heavy gems might join it, creating a hidden, sunken treasure chest entirely submerged and perfectly protected. The river roars endlessly overhead, freezing in the winter and rushing with the spring thaw. But down in the smooth, curved hollow of the bedrock, the stones rest in total, uninterrupted peace, waiting patiently out of the current for millennia. The diamonds that finally emerge from these deep, quiet riverbed pools are often some of the most phenomenally pure physical structures in the known universe. In the exacting, quiet science of gemology, diamonds are gently separated into distinct categories based on their invisible chemical composition. The most revered, the most impossibly clear of all, belong to a rare, celebrated category known as Type 2A. These remarkable stones make up less than 2% of all the diamonds currently found on Earth. During their slow, fiery birth deep within the mantle, by some miraculous twist of geological fate, absolutely no nitrogen atoms were present in their immediate heavy environment. Because nitrogen is the element that gives a diamond its faint yellowish hue, a Type 2A diamond is completely, utterly colourless. It is so chemically pure, so devoid of any structural or elemental interference, that it is often described by experts as being whiter than white. When you look deeply into a polished Type 2A stone, it does not look like a solid, hard object at all. It resembles a solidified drop of pure mountain spring water, a heavy, flawless pool of clear ice that perfectly transmits light without altering it in the slightest, offering an absolute masterclass in the profound beauty of total, unblemished emptiness. Let your own mind reflect that deep, flawless clarity for a moment. As you sink a fraction deeper into the softness of your bed, the busy, colourful, noisy thoughts of the waking world are quietly draining away, leaving a clear, comfortable, empty space behind. You're resting safely in a state of pure, quiet presence, as still and unbothered as a heavy stone resting at the bottom of a gentle river. That pure, unbothered emptiness allows the diamond to act as an edge of unimaginable precision, a tool that separates physical tissue with such clean, perfect geometry that the body barely registers the change. In the hushed, deeply focused and quiet environment of modern microsurgery, particularly in delicate procedures involving the human eye, doctors occasionally set aside their traditional shining steel instruments. Instead, they rely on scalpels crafted from a single, flawless, microscopic shard of clear diamond. Even under the most powerful laboratory magnification, a traditional steel blade looks jagged, resembling a rough metal saw. But a diamond blade, carefully cleaved along its natural atomic planes, possesses an edge that is profoundly, molecularly smooth. It is so impossibly sharp and perfectly thin that it can pass through delicate cellular structures without tearing, dragging, or pulling the surrounding tissue. The tiny incision is so clean, so completely devoid of microscopic friction or rough trauma, that the body's natural healing process is vastly, miraculously accelerated. It is a beautiful, quiet paradox to ponder as you rest. The hardest, most unyielding, invincible substance forged by the violent pressures of the planet is used to perform the softest, most delicate and compassionate act of healing, leaving an invisible cut and almost no trace of its passing. The incredible microscopic edge of that surgical scalpel is just one extreme example of how the physical geography of the stone dictates its gentle interaction with the world. If we look softly at the complete polished architecture of a brilliant cut diamond resting quietly on a velvet table, we can see it is a masterwork of balancing different zones of light and weight. At the very centre of its profile, forming the widest outermost part of the gem, is a thin, often entirely overlooked band known as the girdle. The girdle is the silent, steady equator of the stone. It forms the crucial dividing boundary between the crown, the upper sloping facets that reach up into the room to gather the ambient light, and the pavilion, the deep, plunging bottom facets that act as the internal mirrors. Sometimes master cutters leave the girdle completely raw and unpolished, creating a soft, frosted, translucent ribbon of rough stone circling the blazing, clear brilliance of the cut gem. It serves as a gentle, tactile reminder of the stone's wild, unpolished, ancient origins. It is the solid, physical anchor where the jeweler's metal prongs finally rest, the quiet, heavy holding point that securely balances the intake of light from above with the deep, echoing reflection from below, creating a perfect, unmoving centre of gravity. The deep, echoing reflection held within that secure space sometimes surrounds a quiet mystery, far older than the Earth itself. While we spoke earlier of visible inclusions, those tiny, trapped imperfections like a single drop of deep Earth water, there is another, completely invisible passenger sometimes caught resting softly inside the crystal lattice. Deep within the ancient, super-deep diamonds pulled from the lower, crushing mantle, scientists have discovered microscopic pockets of incredibly rare primordial gas called helium-3. Unlike the common, lightweight helium used to fill floating balloons, helium-3 is an ancient fundamental isotope. It was synthesized in the unimaginably chaotic, fiery moments immediately following the birth of the universe, and it was swirling gently in the vast, cold, dusty nebula that eventually collapsed to form our sun and planets. Because the deep Earth is incredibly dense, some of this primordial gas was trapped during the planet's violent formation. Billions of years ago, as the diamond slowly, quietly crystallized in the dark, it accidentally wrapped its unbreakable carbon walls around a microscopic breath of this ancient gas. To hold one of these specific stones is to hold a perfect, airtight capsule containing the very first atmosphere of the universe, a silent, invisible ghost from the dawn of time, kept perfectly safe and undisturbed in the heart of a clear jewel. Eventually, all these vast stories of deep time, trapped starlight, and ancient drifting gas lead us back to the quiet, rolling surface of the Earth, to the heavy green places where humanity first learned to patiently seek them out. Long before the massive, dusty industrial mines of the modern era, The world's most legendary water-clear diamonds were found in a single, almost mythological region in India, an area near the ancient winding riverbanks of Golconda. For over 2,000 years, this lush, humid, river-fed landscape was the sole source of the world's brilliant stones. The diamonds pulled softly from the mud here were so exceptionally pure, so universally flawless, that the very word Golconda became a lasting poetic synonym for ultimate, absolute perfection. But the Earth's quiet treasures are not infinite, and they are eventually allowed to rest. By the late 19th century, the riverbeds and ancient alluvial deposits of Golconda had gently given up the very last of their bright stones. The mining slowly ceased. The busy, dusty camps were peacefully abandoned to the quiet air. Today, the ancient hand-dug pits of Golconda are completely, profoundly silent. The heavy roots of banyan trees and sprawling green ferns have softly covered the exposed rock, gently reclaiming the earth. The landscape has quietly closed over its own history, returning to a state of deep, undisturbed slumber, a peaceful, shaded ending for the legendary birthplace of the world's most famous light. And as the thick canopy of leaves casts long, cooling shadows over those ancient, quiet riverbeds, we're reminded of the delicate, beautiful relationship between these unbreakable stones and the simple, soft world of plants and flowers. And as the thick canopy of leaves casts long, cooling shadows over those ancient, quiet riverbeds, we're reminded of the delicate, beautiful relationship between these unbreakable stones and the simple, soft world of plants and flowers. Deep in the dense, humid, sprawling rainforests of West Africa, particularly in the quiet, shaded soils of Liberia, there grows a remarkable, thorny botanical mystery known as the Pandanus candelabrum. This sprawling, palm-like plant, with its complex stilt roots reaching down like wooden fingers into the damp earth, harbours a deeply specific, magical preference for its home. Botanists and geologists have discovered that this beautiful plant flourishes almost exclusively in the soil directly above hidden subterranean kimberlite pipes. The deep taproots of the Pandanus candelabrum thirst for the rich, heavy magnesium and potassium that are slowly released as the ancient diamond-bearing volcanic rock naturally degrades over thousands of years. It is a stunning, quiet partnership between the vibrant, breathing canopy of the jungle and the dark, silent depths of the earth. To find the hardest, most invincible stone in the world, one does not necessarily need to blindly dig into the heavy dirt. Sometimes, you simply need to walk softly through the forest, look up at the green fronds, and let the gentle living plants draw a living map to the buried stars waiting below. When you follow those roots down into the dark and pull a raw, unpolished diamond from the heavy clay, its surface is rarely smooth or glassy like a traditional window pane. Instead, the ancient stone often carries a profound, microscopic physical memory of its fiery upward journey. If you were to trace your thumb softly over the skin of a rough diamond, you would feel a delicate, frosted texture. Under a jeweler's loupe, this frosted skin reveals itself to be a vast interlocking landscape of perfect microscopic depressions known as trigons. These are flawlessly formed, recessed equilateral triangles that cover the flat faces of the raw crystal. They were not formed by the diamond growing, but rather by the diamond gently, slowly dissolving. Millions of years ago, as the stone was violently swept upward toward the cool surface in a rushing river of liquid magma, the intense, fluctuating heat began to subtly melt the outer layers of the carbon lattice. But because the diamond is so structurally perfect, it does not melt chaotically. It yields to the heat in strict geometric obedience, leaving behind a beautiful triangular pattern. It is a soft, frosted topography, a tactile diary of surviving the fire etched permanently onto the skin of the sleeping stone. Beneath that textured geometric skin, however, lies an interior of such absolute pure transparency that it defies our ordinary understanding of solid matter. We're used to looking through glass windows that block certain elements of the invisible world. Ordinary glass absorbs ultraviolet light, which is why you cannot get a sunburn while resting quietly indoors. But a pure, flawless diamond acts as a perfect, unresisting window across almost the entirety of the electromagnetic spectrum. It allows not only the warm, visible colours of the rainbow to pass through, but also perfectly transmits the deep, invisible waves of far infrared heat, the subtle frequencies of ultraviolet light, and even high-energy microwaves. To the vast, invisible energies of the universe, the diamond simply does not exist. It offers absolute, flawless passage. It is a stone that holds no secrets, casting no shadow in the unseen spectrum, standing as a monument to perfect, unblemished emptiness. Just as that clear window offers no resistance to the light, you can allow the passing thoughts of the day to drift gently through your own mind, offering no resistance, simply watching them glide by and disappear. Your body is growing wonderfully heavy, sinking into the soft mattress, perfectly supported, perfectly still. That profound, unresisting clarity demands an incredible, breathless respect from the human artisans tasked with shaping it. In the early 20th century, when the massive, incomprehensible Cullinan diamond, the size of a human heart, was entrusted to the legendary master cutter Joseph Asher, he did not rush to his tools. Instead, Asher took the stone into a quiet, heavily guarded room, sat down at a simple wooden table, and spent 6 unbroken months doing nothing but silently staring at it. For half a year, in total, meditative stillness, he studied the faint internal fault lines, the subtle grain of the carbon lattice, waiting for the stone to reveal its exact natural seams. When the quiet study was finally over, Asher placed a dull steel cleaver in a tiny groove he had gently scratched on the surface. With the entire room holding its breath, he struck the blade with a single firm tap of a heavy wooden mallet. The massive crystal cleaved perfectly, falling open in 2 flawless, shimmering halves. The sudden release of tension, both the deep physical tension within the ancient stone and the heavy psychological weight of his silent focus, was so absolute that Asher instantly collapsed, fainting peacefully into the arms of his assistants. It is a legendary moment that perfectly illustrates the heavy, quiet burden of perfection and the sheer relief of letting go. While the Cullinan was a massive, blocky, solitary giant, the deep earth occasionally grows diamonds in a beautifully cooperative, intertwined architecture known as a mantle. A mantle is a specific type of twin crystal that appears in the raw dirt as a flat, nearly perfect, shimmering triangle. Deep within the crushing heat of the mantle, 2 separate carbon lattices begin to crystallize at the exact same moment. Instead of pushing against one another or competing for space in the heavy rock, they share a single, invisible, microscopic boundary layer at their very center. They grow outward in perfect, mirrored harmony, their atomic structures mirroring one another like reflections in a still pond. A mantle twin is a stunning geometric manifestation of partnership and balance. The 2 separate stones are physically bonded together for billions of years, creating a flat, resilient shield of carbon that is notoriously difficult to cut because the grain of the stone changes direction perfectly at its heart. It stands as a quiet reminder from the depths of the earth that profound strength is often found when 2 distinct structures fuse gracefully, supporting one another perfectly in the dark. The carbon atoms that make up those beautifully twinned crystals may hold a surprisingly vibrant sunlit history, tied deeply to the ancient rolling oceans of the surface world. Through a vast, unimaginably slow geological process called the deep carbon cycle, scientists believe that some of the diamonds resting quietly in vaults today were originally born from the soft biological world. Millions of years ago, microscopic blooming marine organisms and ancient drifting algae absorbed carbon dioxide from the warm, sunlit air to build their delicate, chalky shells. When these tiny creatures completed their quiet lives, they fell like a slow, white snow to the bottom of the deep ocean, creating thick, soft layers of organic sediment. Over deep geological time, the massive creeping tectonic plates of the Earth's crust collided, and the ocean floor was slowly, inexorably pushed down, subducted, deep into the crushing heat of the mantle. There, the remains of ancient ocean life were compressed, purified, and crystallized into flawless, unbreakable stones, only to be thrown back up to the surface eons later. It is a slow, majestic planetary reincarnation. The clear stone you hold might silently contain the distant fossilized memory of a prehistoric ocean, a perfect circle of life, death, and crystalline rebirth. As the Earth engages in this unimaginably slow, majestic breathing, notice the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your own chest. Your breath is a calm, tidal wave, sweeping away the last remnants of waking tension. There is nothing you need to figure out right now. The slow cycles of the world will continue to turn perfectly while you simply rest. When those reborn stones finally return to the surface, completely hidden within massive grey mountains of crushed volcanic rock, human ingenuity uses a trick of invisible light to gently coax them out of the dark. We have spoken of how a diamond might glow blue under the ultraviolet rays of the sun, but under the invisible, highly penetrating gaze of X-rays, diamonds exhibit a breathtaking, radiant fluorescence. In modern, deeply quiet, highly automated recovery facilities, millions of pieces of crushed ore fall continuously like a heavy grey waterfall through a pitch-black chamber. This dark chamber is silently flooded with X-ray energy. The ordinary rocks remain dark and invisible, plummeting downward. But the moment a diamond falls through the invisible beam, its carbon structure reacts instantly, bursting into a bright, glowing beacon of light. Sensors instantly detect this sudden flash in the dark, and a tiny, precise nozzle fires a gentle, microscopic puff of compressed air, softly nudging the glowing stone out of the falling stream and safely into a velvet-lined collection bin. It is a magical, frictionless sorting process. The stones are not violently grabbed or filtered by heavy iron screens. They are simply invited to announce themselves with a soft flash of light, and the wind gently catches them as they fall. Once caught and carried to the jeweler's bench, the stones of the past were not always cut to maximize the blinding, sharp, laser-like brilliance we expect in modern display cases. Before the rigid mathematical formulas of the modern round cut were calculated, master cutters working by candlelight favoured a deeply romantic shape known as the old mine cut or the antique cushion cut. These historical shapes possess a uniquely soft, rounded, square silhouette. They feature a smaller, flat top, a higher, more prominent crown, and a uniquely large open facet at the very bottom of the pavilion. Because they were faceted by eye and intuition rather than strict geometry, they do not shatter light into sharp, aggressive shards. Instead, they pull the ambient light deep into their heavy centre, creating a soft, blocky, slow-moving reflection that gemologists affectionately refer to as a sleepy light. They were intentionally designed to be viewed in the gentle amber glow of evening hearths and flickering beeswax candles. When you slowly turn an antique cushion cut in a dimly lit room, it does not flash. It breathes. It emits a warm, quiet, deeply romantic hum of illumination, inviting you to look deeper into its heavy, tranquil centre rather than turning your eyes away from the glare. That warm, sleepy light stands in profound, quiet contrast to the modern diamond's ability to perfectly manage the freezing cold and intense, localized heat found in the silent, airless vacuum of space. Far above the soft candlelight of human history, deep inside the sleek silver bodies of modern satellites drifting in orbit, tiny, flawless wafers of synthetic diamond perform an absolutely critical, invisible task. They are utilized as the ultimate flawless heat sinks. Within these satellites, incredibly delicate quantum processors and high-powered communication lasers generate dangerous concentrated pockets of intense heat as they operate. In the vacuum of space, there is no cooling breeze, no air to carry the heat away. But because diamond is the greatest thermal conductor in the universe, these sensitive electronic components are mounted directly onto microscopic diamond shelves. The moment the laser generates heat, the diamond instantly, silently, drinks the thermal energy, pulling it rapidly away from the delicate circuitry and spreading it harmlessly out into the cold void. It acts as an unbreakable, invisible guardian, maintaining a perfect, cool, and silent equilibrium for the machines that quietly watch over the Earth while we sleep below. And as those silent satellites orbit high above the blue oceans and sprawling continents, they are sustained by a stone whose deepest origins are older than the stable continents themselves. To fully grasp the sheer, heavy depth of time locked within a diamond, we must look to the very oldest stones ever discovered on the planet. Geologists have unearthed tiny ancient diamonds trapped in heavy zircon crystals in the Jack Hills of Western Australia. When analysing the microscopic isotopic signatures held safely inside these stones, scientists found that they date back to the Hadean Eon. This is an era stretching over 4 billion years into the past, a time when the Earth had barely formed. The planet was a swirling, violent, unrecognisable ocean of red-hot molten magma, bombarded constantly by massive meteors, with no solid crust, no oceans, and no life. Yet, even in that absolute boiling chaos, the very first temporary islands of cooling rock began to form, and deep within them, the first carbon atoms quietly locked hands to form a diamond. These tiny, indestructible stones are the only surviving physical witnesses to the violent birth of our world. They survived the cooling of the crust, the filling of the oceans, and the slow march of 4 billion years, resting quietly in the dark. To hold one is to hold a perfect, silent time capsule from a world of fire that has long since settled into peace, a profound reassurance that no matter how chaotic the beginning, everything eventually cools, crystallizes, and finds its way into a deep, enduring rest. That journey from the deep, chaotic heat of the mantle to a restful, sunlit place on the surface is not always accomplished by massive, violent volcanic eruptions or the slow, heavy, grinding patience of ancient glaciers. Sometimes the Earth gently reveals its deepest, most hidden secrets through the quiet, tireless, microscopic work of its smallest creatures. In the sprawling, sun-baked golden savannas of southern Africa, where the heat ripples softly in the afternoon air, prospectors looking for hidden kimberlite pipes do not always look down at the dirt. They look up. They scan the horizon for the towering cathedral-like earthen mounds built entirely by the macroterms termite. To survive the harsh, dry season, these tiny blind architects must dig incredibly deep vertical shafts, sometimes tunneling hundreds of feet straight down in the dark to reach the cool, hidden subterranean water table. As they patiently, rhythmically excavate the deep earth grain by tiny grain, they inadvertently carry microscopic blood-red pyrope garnets, dark ilmenite, and occasionally tiny clear diamond crystals all the way up into the sunlight to build the thick, protective walls of their quiet homes. It is a stunning, beautifully humbling shift in scale. The microscopic, collective, peaceful efforts of an insect colony perfectly mirror the massive, violent geological lifting of a volcano, gently carrying the heavy stars of the deep mantle up into the warm air to safely house their sleeping queens. When those tiny, clear stones are eventually freed from the earthen mounds and carried away by the long, winding rivers we spoke of earlier, their final resting place is often far beyond the soft, sandy beaches. Off the remote, windswept skeleton coast of Namibia, the heavy, churning, dark blue waters of the Atlantic Ocean hide one of the most remarkable, quiet gatherings of gems in the world. Here, millions of years of steady river currents have gently deposited countless diamonds onto the dark, freezing, undulating ocean floor. Submerged in the quiet, crushing pressure of the deep sea, these stones have been subjected to a second, incredibly patient refinement. The relentless rhythmic rolling of the ocean waves, pushing the heavy stones against the soft, abrasive silica sand for millennia, has polished away any lingering flaws, sharp corners, or rough edges. Marine diamonds are universally celebrated by gemologists for being exceptionally pure and beautifully shaped, having been slowly, perfectly tumbled by the largest, most patient, and most powerful lapidary wheel on the planet. They lie there by the millions, resting in the total silent dark of the sea, bathed only in the cold, slow-moving currents, entirely undisturbed and far removed from the reaching warmth of the sun. As you imagine those smooth, water-polished stones resting peacefully on the quiet seafloor, let the gentle, rhythmic motion of the ocean waves guide your own breathing. Inhale as the invisible wave slowly swells, and exhale as it softly breaks and recedes back into the deep. The body grows noticeably heavier, the mind can simply drift, and the need to analyze or hold on to the day gently washes away with the outgoing tide. In that state of deep, undisturbed rest, we can look closely at the hidden, internal life of the stone itself. If scientists take a clear diamond, place it inside the perfectly silent vacuum-sealed chamber of a scanning electron microscope and gently bathe it in a stream of invisible electrons, the stone responds with a breathtaking, ghostly display called cathodoluminescence. The entire diamond begins to glow in the dark, but not with a single uniform light. Instead, it illuminates in complex, glowing, geometric patterns of cool blue and soft green, revealing perfectly preserved, luminous layers. Much like the concentric wooden rings of an ancient sleeping oak tree, these glowing bands map the exact slow progression of the diamond's birth, layer by layer, millions of years ago. It is a quiet, beautiful map of time itself, drawn in soft light, proving that even the most seemingly solid, unchanging objects hold a vibrant, layered history of quiet adaptation hidden just beneath the surface. Among these beautifully layered histories, there exists a wonderfully strange, gentle anomaly known to the gemological world as the chameleon diamond. Most diamonds hold their colour permanently, unaffected by the shifting world around them, but these incredibly rare stones possess a magical, almost lifelike sensitivity to their immediate environment. When a true chameleon diamond is kept safely locked away in a dark, quiet velvet box for an extended period, it falls into a deep, restful slumber, naturally adopting a soft, pale, sleepy yellow colour. But when the box is finally opened and the stone is brought out into the ambient light of the room, or if it is gently, softly warmed by a heat source, it literally wakes up. Right before your eyes, the stone will slowly shift its hue, transitioning smoothly from a pale yellow into a rich, deep, earthy olive green. As it slowly cools and remains in the steady light, the green gradually, peacefully, fades back to yellow. The exact invisible atomic mechanism behind this graceful colour change remains one of the quiet, unsolved mysteries of modern physics. It is as if the ancient stone is a living, breathing entity, gently adjusting its physical appearance to harmonise with the changing light and warmth of the room, offering a perfect, quiet metaphor for the beauty of soft, effortless adaptation. That breathtaking ability to softly adapt does not mean the stone is vulnerable to the harsh, chaotic or destructive forces of the waking world. In the quiet, highly controlled and clinical environments of modern chemistry laboratories, there exists a fearsome, fuming, orange-red mixture of nitric and hydrochloric acids known historically as aqua regia, or royal water. It earned this majestic, intimidating title because it is one of the very few substances on Earth capable of rapidly dissolving solid, pure gold or heavy, shining platinum, turning those noble, ancient metals into a bubbling, chaotic liquid. Yet, if you were to take a pair of precise tweezers and drop a clear, flawless diamond into a glass beaker, filled with this violently reactive royal water, absolutely nothing would happen. The stone would simply sink softly to the flat bottom and rest there, perfectly clear, perfectly unbothered, and completely physically unchanged. The carbon bonds locking the lattice together are so tight, so perfectly organised, that the aggressive, swirling acid simply cannot find a microscopic way in. It is a stunning, deeply comforting demonstration of absolute quiet integrity. The diamond does not need to fight back, resist, or react to the caustic, chaotic energy swirling around it. It survives and thrives simply by remaining perfectly true to its own deep, unbreakable structure, watching the storm rage safely from within. Let that deep, unbreakable internal structure serve as a heavy, calming anchor for your own quiet rest tonight. You do not need to react to the lingering thoughts, the passing worries, or the fading echoes of the day. You can simply remain at your own centre, clear and unbothered, letting the busy world swirl harmlessly away. From this still, perfectly quiet centre, we can look outward, past the earth, and up into the vast, wheeling, silent universe, to see the faintest, most distant drifting galaxies in the cosmic ocean. Astronomers rely on massive spacefaring telescopes equipped with mirrors of unimaginable, breathtaking smoothness. To achieve this perfect reflective surface, engineers use a meticulous process called single-point diamond turning. A microscopic, flawlessly sharpened diamond tool is used to gently, methodically, shave away single molecules of metal from the heavy mirror's curved surface as it slowly spins. Because the diamond edge is so impossibly sharp, stable, and completely immune to friction, it leaves behind a mirror with no microscopic ripples, waves, or flaws. It creates a surface so perfectly, flawlessly flat that it can accurately capture the faint, ghostly light of a star that quietly died billions of years ago. The oldest, hardest stone born in the dark earth is gently used to polish the mirror that finally allows humanity to look back into the deepest, quietest corners of the ancient cosmos. Long before human hands ever learned to use the stone to polish spacefaring mirrors or cut glass, the earth itself was acting as a gentle, quiet sculptor, shaping the raw carbon crystals into forms of stunning sacred geometry. While we often picture the classic, sharp, eight-sided octahedron as the natural raw shape of a diamond, the swirling, flowing heat of the deep mantle sometimes creates a beautifully complex, much softer structure known as a dodecahedron. Imagine a heavy, perfectly symmetrical, rounded stone with 12 smooth, gently curving, diamond-shaped faces. These natural faces often possess a soft, melted, almost soapy luster, completely devoid of any sharp, jagged edges or harsh corners. In classical antiquity, the great philosopher Plato associated the dodecahedron with the entire overarching shape of the universe itself, believing it to be the most perfect, divine, and harmonious geometric form in all of existence. To pull a natural dodecahedron diamond from the heavy, wet clay is to hold a physical manifestation of that ancient poetic philosophy. It is a stone that requires no cutting, no polishing, and no human intervention whatsoever to be recognized as a perfect, quiet masterpiece of universal design, resting comfortably and heavily in the palm of a resting hand. Those perfectly shaped ancient stones often carry an invisible magnetic memory that goes far beyond the history of their own quiet, deep earth formation. Deep inside the flawless atomic lattice, a diamond will sometimes encapsulate microscopic heavy grains of iron-rich minerals like magnetite. Because the diamond acts as a flawless, unbreakable, pressure-sealed, transparent vault, these tiny magnetic grains are permanently protected from the heavy, shifting, oxidizing forces of the outer earth. By carefully, quietly studying these microscopic inclusions, modern geologists can read the faint, fossilized magnetic fields locked permanently within them. They act as perfectly preserved tiny compass needles that froze in place billions of years ago. These silent, trapped compasses allow scientists to track exactly how the massive, heavy tectonic plates of the Earth have slowly, patiently wandered across the globe, and how the planet's own immense magnetic poles have peacefully, continuously flipped over eons of deep time. The clear stone is not just a beautiful jewel to be worn, it is an indestructible microscopic library. It holds the quiet, invisible navigational charts of a planet that has been slowly, beautifully and constantly redesigning its own geography since the very beginning of time. As the planet slowly redesigns itself over billions of years, moving continents and oceans in the dark, you're allowed to simply rest in the quiet sanctuary of this single, peaceful night. The heavy, relentless march of geological time is completely paused here, and all that exists is the soft, rhythmic hum of the present moment. In this moment, we can appreciate a strange, quiet paradox regarding time and these ancient resting stones. If a scientist wishes to know the exact, reliable age of an old piece of wooden ship, a fragment of ancient bone, or a woven piece of historical cloth, they rely on a technique called radiocarbon dating, measuring the slow, predictable decay of the carbon-14 isotope. But if you hand that exact same scientist a diamond, a stone made entirely 100% of pure carbon, they cannot use this method at all. Radiocarbon dating only works on materials that are a few tens of thousands of years old. Because the carbon trapped inside a diamond is so impossibly ancient, often billions of years old, all of its radioactive isotopes have long since fallen into a completely stable, restful silence. The stone is simply too old, too deeply settled, and too perfectly quiet to be measured by the busy ticking clock of organic decay. This profound, deeply settled silence brings us to a beautiful, breathtaking thought, gently pulling our gaze away from the Earth and back out into the endless floating dark of the wider galaxy. Astronomers peering through those polished mirrors into the dense, swirling star-forming regions of the Milky Way have discovered massive, heavy clouds of pure carbon drifting in the interstellar void. In these specific carbon-rich nurseries, planets form very differently than our own. Instead of heavy iron cores and deep blue oceans of liquid water, these exoplanets, known as carbon planets, are composed of deep, thick layers of graphite and silicon carbide, and deep within their heavy, silent mantles, beneath the crushing weight of their thick atmospheres, geologists theorize there are solid, continuous layers of diamond that are miles thick. Imagine standing on the quiet, unlit surface of such a world, where the dark, jagged mountains are made of graphite, and deep beneath your resting feet lies a planetary foundation of pure, unbroken crystal. It is a universe of endless, silent possibilities, where the rare, precious stones we hold so dearly on Earth are simply the ordinary, quiet building blocks of distant, sleeping worlds, slowly turning in the soft, ancient light of alien suns. That soft, ancient light from distant stars occasionally sends heavy, silent physical messengers across the freezing void, and when they finally intersect with our own quiet world, the result is a breathtaking, almost instantaneous transformation. In the remote, beautifully desolate and permanently frozen tundra of northern Siberia, there is a massive circular depression in the Earth known as the Popigai crater. 35 million years ago, a colossal meteorite slipped silently through the Earth's atmosphere and struck a region of the crust that was exceptionally rich in ancient resting graphite. In a microscopic fraction of a second, the monumental heat and the unimaginable heavy physical shockwave compressed that ordinary graphite into trillions of carats of industrial diamonds. The impact was so absolute that it instantly created more diamond mass in a single heartbeat than all the other known geological deposits on Earth combined. Today, these tiny, tough, shock-formed stones, known as impact diamonds, rest completely undisturbed beneath the thick, quiet blanket of the Siberian permafrost. They are a staggering cosmic secret, an immense frozen reservoir of crushed stars hidden safely beneath a landscape of profound, icy silence, serving as a permanent, peaceful scar from a momentary meeting of heaven and earth. While that astronomical impact generated a sudden, searing flash of unimaginable energy, the diamond itself possesses a miraculous, almost poetic relationship with extreme heat. We have explored how a clear stone will softly and gracefully evaporate into a breath of carbon dioxide if it is heavily heated in the open, breathing air. But if you remove the atmosphere entirely, placing the stone in a perfect, silent, oxygen-free vacuum chamber, a completely different and mesmerizing physical magic occurs. Deprived of the oxygen it needs to sublime into a gas, a diamond can withstand temperatures exceeding 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It does not burn, and it does not shatter. Instead, as the heat reaches an absolute staggering peak, the unbreakable carbon lattice finally gently yields. The hardest stone in the world slowly softens, melting into a heavy, shimmering, pooling droplet of liquid metallic carbon. It is a profound visualization of physical surrender. In the absolute silent isolation of a vacuum, even the most rigid, unyielding object in the known universe eventually lets go of its perfect structure, relaxing into a smooth, dark, heavy liquid that pulls perfectly still at the bottom of the chamber. As we imagine that heavy, glowing pool of liquid carbon at the absolute extremes of heat, we find that these unyielding stones also hold liquid secrets of a much cooler nature, frozen perfectly in deep time. Deep within the immense, heavy embrace of the Earth's lower mantle, a growing diamond will occasionally wrap its carbon lattice around a microscopic stray droplet of water. Because the physical pressure inside that tiny, unbreakable, transparent vault is so astronomically high, the trapped water simply cannot remain in a normal liquid state. The sheer, crushing force compels the water molecules to completely reorganize, crystallizing into a bizarre, warm, solid form of water known to quantum physicists as Ice 7. This is not the cold, floating ice that clinks softly in a glass of winter water. It is a dense, cubic ice that only exists under the most extreme, heavy pressure imaginable. To peer into a diamond holding this inclusion is to look at a microscopic, perfectly preserved drop of the deep Earth's hidden ocean, permanently frozen by the heavy weight of the world rather than the absence of heat. It is a tiny, flawless time capsule of deep water, resting safely inside a crystal of deep fire. As you envision that tiny, protected drop of deep earth water, safely and permanently encased within its clear, heavy shell, allow your own physical body to feel that exact same profound sense of protection. Your muscles can simply release their hold on the day, sinking heavily and luxuriously into the quiet comfort of your bed. Your breathing is slow, steady, and beautifully rhythmic, acting as a soft, reassuring anchor in the quiet room. This slow, patient rhythm perfectly mirrors the very first, fundamental step in shaping a raw diamond by hand, a hypnotic traditional process known historically to master cutters as bruting. Before any sparkling sharp facets are mapped or cut, a rough diamond is placed onto a slowly, steadily spinning lathe. The artisan then takes a second diamond and gently, rhythmically presses it against the spinning stone. The slow, sweeping, continuous friction of the two hardest materials on Earth grinding gently together produces a soft, floating, snowy white powder. Hour after hour, the jagged, chaotic edges of the raw rock are patiently worn away, until the stone becomes a perfectly round, heavy, smooth drop of frosted, quiet light, ready to finally be awakened. Along that newly rounded, softly frosted edge, the silent, steady equator of the stone known formerly as the girdle, modern technology leaves a completely invisible, deeply personal mark. Using highly focused, microscopic beams of cold, pulsing laser light, modern jewelers can gently burn tiny, hidden inscriptions directly onto the flat, narrow surface of the diamond. The laser pulses so incredibly fast in fractions of a femtosecond that it does not even warm the surrounding stone. It simply evaporates a microscopic sliver of carbon, leaving a clean, dark line. These beautifully etched letters and numbers are often thinner than a single strand of human hair, remaining entirely invisible to the naked, searching eye. It might be a complex, secure serial number, a tiny geographic map of the stone's deep earth origin, or a quiet, romantic declaration of enduring love. It is a secret, permanent message resting invisibly on the very edge of the light, completely unseen by the passing world, waiting patiently for a heavy, brass microscope to one day read its silent, intimate story. If we look even deeper into the clear heart of the stone using a completely different kind of specialized light, hidden, invisible topographies of ancient stress are suddenly, beautifully revealed to the eye. When gemologists examine a perfectly flawless, transparent diamond under cross-polarized light, the seemingly empty, glass-like interior blossoms into a glowing, three-dimensional tapestry of soft, intersecting colors. These internal, hidden stress patterns are referred to by experts as tatami patterns, beautifully named because their intricate, crisscrossing geometric lines so closely resemble the woven, comforting, organized texture of traditional Japanese reed floor mats. This spectacular, hidden weaving of pink, blue, and pale yellow light is a quiet, visual diary of the immense, heavy pressure the stone endured as it grew in the deep earth. The diamond absorbed the monumental, shifting forces of the planet and beautifully translated them into a soft, woven tapestry of light, resting permanently inside a seemingly empty, perfectly quiet room, proving that even the most intense pressure can leave behind a signature of profound grace. While those softly woven patterns are a magnificent record of heavy physical pressure, some of the most profound, beautiful alterations to a diamond's character require a quiet, undisturbed patience that spans millions of unbroken years. Deep within the heavy crust of the earth, if a clear diamond comes to rest near a deposit of naturally radioactive rock, it does not shatter and it does not aggressively decay. Instead, it slowly, peacefully absorbs that invisible ambient energy over vast, quiet eons of geological time. This incredibly slow, steady exposure gently knocks a microscopic handful of carbon atoms out of their perfect, rigid alignment, subtly and permanently altering the way the crystal absorbs the warmth of the sun. The result is a breathtaking, naturally green diamond. Unlike stones coloured rapidly by heat or twisting stress, the green diamond is a masterpiece of slow, silent accumulation. It is a stone that has patiently absorbed the Earth's chaotic, invisible radiation in the absolute dark, gracefully transforming that heavy energy into the deep, mossy, tranquil colour of an ancient sleeping forest. When that tranquil green stone, or any masterfully cut clear diamond, is finally brought into the soft ambient light of a room and gently, slowly moved, it produces a mesmerizing rhythmic flashing known as scintillation. But this beautiful dancing optical phenomenon is not just about the brilliant reflection of bright incoming light. It is equally, profoundly dependent on the presence of absolute darkness. For a diamond to truly sparkle and exhibit its famous fire, its carefully angled facets must perfectly reflect the shadows of the room and the dark, quiet silhouette of the observer. Without these quiet, dark spots weaving through the inside of the stone, the returning light would wash out into a dull, flat, lifeless glare. It is a profound optical lesson in balance, gently teaching us that the dark, quiet, empty spaces are absolutely necessary to make the light truly visible, dynamic, and beautiful. The shadows do not diminish the brilliance of the stone. They provide the essential quiet contrast that allows the light to breathe, flash, and dance. Embrace those quiet, dark spaces in your own mind tonight. You do not need to be constantly shining, constantly active, or constantly holding tightly onto the bright, busy events of the waking day. The shadows and the stillness are perfectly necessary for your own brilliant restorative rest. The mind can simply be quiet, heavy, and still. This profound reverence for quiet, dark spaces was beautifully understood by ancient, patient craftsmen living in China over 4,500 years ago. Long before the stone was used to create glittering jewellery or sparkling royal crowns, these Neolithic artisans crushed raw diamonds into a fine, heavy paste. They used this abrasive, microscopic diamond dust to meticulously polish massive, heavy ceremonial burial axes made of solid, unyielding corundum. They spent countless quiet hours sitting in the dust, creating a flawless, mirrored finish on a heavy stone implement meant entirely for the quiet, eternal sleep of the dead. It was an act of supreme, patient devotion, utilizing the hardest material on the living earth to create a perfectly smooth, unblemished, reflective surface for those resting in the deep, undisturbed and permanent dark. The ancient heavy dust used to honor the quiet rest of the dead eventually leads our journey to one of the rarest, most ethereal and softly coloured manifestations of the stone, a colour so impossibly uncommon it feels like a soft floating myth. In the entire heavy excavated history of the earth, only a microscopic handful of true pure violet diamonds have ever been discovered, almost entirely from a single remote mine in the dusty red landscape of Western Australia. Their impossibly rare, soft lavender hue is not caused by the intrusion of heavy metals, the twisting of tectonic pressure, or the slow creep of crushing radiation. It is born from the gentle, microscopic inclusion of pure hydrogen. Hydrogen is the lightest, oldest, and most abundant element in the known universe, the very first atom to coalesce in the silent, cooling dark immediately following the dawn of time. By some quiet astronomical miracle, a tiny breath of this ancient, floating, primordial gas slipped into the heaviest, hardest crystal forming in the deep earth, creating a stone the exact colour of a soft, fading twilight sky. It is a microscopic, heavy piece of the original cosmic nebula caught perfectly and permanently in crystal, a gentle, glowing reminder of the vast, quiet, and infinitely peaceful universe waiting patiently above as you drift deeply and beautifully into sleep. That gentle, glowing reminder of the vast, quiet universe floating above us is perfectly mirrored by the unimaginable, heavy secrets buried at the very deepest boundaries of our own world. Far below the familiar crust, descending into the crushing, unimaginable depths of the Earth's lower mantle, the very fabric of the rock changes into something completely alien to the surface. Here, scientists know there exists an incredibly dense, tightly packed mineral called bridgmanite. It is a stunning geological paradox. Bridgmanite is actually the single most abundant solid mineral on the entire planet, making up more than a third of the Earth's total volume, yet it is completely and utterly unstable in the low pressure of the waking world. If it were somehow carried up through the crust, it would instantly lose its structure and fall apart into ordinary soft dust. The only way humanity has ever been able to lay its eyes upon a pristine, natural crystal of bridgmanite is when a super deep diamond gently wraps its unbreakable carbon lattice around a microscopic speck of it. The diamond acts as a flawless, pressure-sealed, transparent vault, preserving the exact crushing atmosphere of the lower mantle and safely carrying the Earth's most abundant yet unseeable secret all the way up into the light. It is a profound act of geological preservation, holding the deep foundation of the world safely inside a tiny clear window. Within these unbreakable, clear vaults, we sometimes find a texture that completely defies the solid, burning heat of the Earth's core, offering a beautifully fluid contrast to the rigid stone. In the frozen, windswept, and perfectly quiet tundra of the Canadian Northwest Territories, geologists have unearthed a fascinating collection of cloudy, mysterious diamonds. When they peer deep into the microscopic architecture of these specific stones, They did not find solid minerals or ancient gas. Instead, they found tiny, perfectly preserved droplets of high salinity brine, heavy, salty water. Millions upon millions of years ago, a vast prehistoric ocean floor, teeming with the gentle rhythms of ancient tides, was slowly subducted and dragged down into the crushing heat of the mantle. The water from that lost sea was miraculously trapped inside the crystallizing carbon. To hold one of these cloudy diamonds in the frozen Canadian winter is to hold a microscopic liquid echo of a warm ancient tropical ocean that hasn't seen the sun in over 1 billion years. It is a stunning, fluid memory of a world that no longer exists, resting quietly and permanently inside the hardest shell nature can forge. As you imagine that ancient trapped drop of seawater resting perfectly still within the heavy stone, allow a sense of that same fluid stillness to wash gently over your resting body. Despite their immense compressed density and their heavy grounding weight in the palm of a hand, clear diamonds possess an extreme, almost magical physical aversion to water. The pure carbon lattice is profoundly hydrophobic, meaning it naturally and completely repels liquid moisture. If you were to take a small, perfectly clean polished diamond and lay it with absolute breathless care onto the flat, undisturbed surface of a glass of cool water, the heavy stone would not sink. Instead, the invisible, elastic surface tension of the water would gently bend and dip, forming a microscopic, yielding cradle that perfectly supports the gem. The diamond literally floats on a soft trampoline of water molecules, held safely aloft in the quiet air simply because it refuses to break the delicate, fluid skin of the surface. Just as that heavy ancient stone is held perfectly and effortlessly by the gentle, yielding surface of the water, your own body is being fully supported right now. The mattress beneath you is a safe, quiet harbour. You do not need to hold yourself up. You can surrender your weight entirely to gravity, letting your muscles soften and your breath settle into a long, slow, untroubled rhythm. That gentle, floating stillness brings to mind a much softer era of human history, a time long before the world was continuously illuminated by the harsh, glaring beams of modern electric light. In the hushed, deeply shadowed halls of the 16th century, diamond cutters did not use complex mathematics to maximize a blinding sharp sparkle. Instead, they crafted a deeply romantic, beautifully subtle shape known as the rose cut. Unlike modern diamonds that come to a sharp, deep point at their base, the antique rose cut features a completely flat, smooth bottom and a softly domed top, entirely covered in a network of delicate triangular facets that closely resemble the unfolding petals of a sleeping flower. This specific architecture was not designed to reflect the bright noonday sun. It was masterfully engineered to catch and amplify the soft, warm, wavering dance of evening candlelight. When placed in a dimly lit room, a rose-cut stone does not flash aggressively. It emits a slow, rolling liquid glow from within. It is a stone explicitly carved for the quiet hours of the night, meant to be admired in the peaceful, flickering shadows of a world winding down toward rest. In the soft, flickering light of those ancient candles, the diamond was not merely viewed as a beautiful jewel to be worn on a quiet evening, but it also served as a profound, enduring spiritual metaphor. The oldest known, securely dated printed book in all of human history is a sacred, heavy scroll created in the year 868. It was carefully pressed onto soft mulberry paper, using carved wooden blocks in a quiet Chinese monastery. This monumental text is known as the Diamond Sutra. The text itself contains absolutely no geological information about the gemstone, nor does it speak of mining or jewellery. The complete translated title is The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion. The ancient patient monks recognized that the absolute unyielding hardness and the flawless transparent clarity of the stone represented the ultimate state of human wisdom. They used the diamond as a perfect, quiet metaphor for a mind so deeply settled, so perfectly clear, and so profoundly strong that it can effortlessly slice through the heavy, confusing and stressful illusions of the waking world, leaving behind only a state of pure, undisturbed and luminous peace. That pursuit of absolute, unyielding clarity eventually moved from the quiet, mist-shrouded monasteries of the ancient world into the deeply insulated, humming, sterile sanctuaries of modern science. Today, humanity no longer has to simply wait for the Earth to surrender its deep treasures. We have learned to perfectly replicate the silent, crushing embrace of the planet's core within the confines of a quiet laboratory. In specialized facilities around the globe, massive heavy steel machines known as HPHT, or high-pressure, high-temperature cubic presses, stand like quiet, sleeping giants. Inside these monumental machines, 6 massive steel anvils press inward on a tiny central capsule with thousands of tons of unimaginable silent force, while precisely controlled electrical currents generate blistering white-hot heat. Hidden deep within this dark, heavy steel womb, a tiny carbon seed is left perfectly alone for weeks at a time. Slowly, atom by microscopic atom, a flawless synthetic diamond crystallizes in the dark, identical in every physical, chemical and optical way to the stones pulled from the ancient dirt. It is a beautiful, quiet synthesis of brute, heavy industrial strength, gently coaxing a delicate, perfect piece of starlight into existence without ever disturbing the earth. Let the steady, rhythmic breathing of your own body gently mirror the slow, patient work of those quiet laboratories. You are synthesizing your own deep rest tonight, drawing in quiet air and slowly building a sanctuary of peace within your own mind. There is no rush, no pressure from the outside world that can reach you here. You are perfectly insulated, surrounded by a soft, heavy comfort. The perfect, unbothered transmission of energy found within those laboratory-grown stones is quickly utilized to guide the most intense, concentrated light humanity can create. In massive, high-powered laser facilities, where silent beams of pure energy are amplified to cut through thick plates of solid steel or to study the fundamental microscopic fusion of atoms, traditional optical glass is entirely useless. An ordinary glass window would instantly warp, melt or shatter into 1,000 pieces under the blistering, unimaginable heat of the beam. Instead, engineers rely on incredibly thin, perfectly clear windows crafted from pure, laboratory-grown diamond. Because the diamond lattice is entirely transparent to these specific wavelengths of energy, and because it is the greatest thermal conductor in the universe, the concentrated, searing light simply passes right through it, as if the stone were nothing more than empty, quiet space. The diamond remains perfectly cool, utterly still, and completely unharmed by the monumental river of energy flowing directly through its quiet heart. It is the ultimate silent guardian, standing firmly in the fire while remaining perfectly at peace. That perfect, unbothered transmission of intense light finds a beautiful, quiet echo in the microscopic, mechanical heart of the world's most intricate and revered timepieces. Inside a masterfully crafted, high-end mechanical watch, dozens of tiny brass and steel gears must spin continuously, day and night, year after year, without ever stopping or slowing down. Their greatest, most persistent, invisible enemy is the slow, grinding wear of physical friction. While synthetic rubies have long been used to cushion these moving parts, the absolute pinnacle of quiet, enduring timekeeping utilizes microscopic bearings made of pure diamond. The delicate spinning pivots of the gears rest softly upon these microscopic, perfectly smooth carbon stones. Because the diamond is so incredibly hard and its polished surface so profoundly frictionless, the tiny gears can spin endlessly with almost zero physical resistance. The diamond does not wear down, and it does not complain. It simply sits in the dark, sealed interior of the watch, silently and perfectly absorbing the movement, allowing the passing of time to slip by with a smooth, completely frictionless grace. preserving the quiet, steady heartbeat of the mechanism for generations. While those hidden, microscopic stones silently hold the physical gears of time in the dark, other diamonds hold a vibrant, hidden spectrum of colour that only awakens when the visible world is completely stripped away. We have spoken of how some diamonds emit a soft, ghostly blue glow when exposed to the invisible ultraviolet rays of the sun, but the deep earth is far more beautifully chaotic and creative than a single colour. Depending on the incredibly specific microscopic mixture of trace elements like nitrogen, boron or hydrogen trapped during their ancient formation, diamonds can quietly fluoresce in a breathtaking, unexpected array of colours. When placed under a specialised blacklight in a completely darkened room, some of these seemingly clear stones will suddenly glow with a deep, earthy mustard yellow. Others will radiate a soft, chalky lunar white, while some emit a ghostly, ethereal, luminescent green. It is a hidden, vibrant aurora borealis locked permanently inside the quiet crystal, a secret glowing rainbow that only reveals its true, vivid nature when the loud, bright lights of the ordinary world are finally turned off. When that hidden light fades and the long, exhaustive, centuries-old search for these vibrant stones finally comes to an end, the Earth is left to quietly and beautifully reclaim its own history. In the dusty, arid heart of South Africa lies the Kimberley Mine, known simply and universally as the Big Hole. In the late 19th century, thousands of men with handpicks and wooden shovels descended upon this small patch of earth, eventually carving out a staggering monumental crater that plunged over 700 feet deep into the solid bedrock. It remains one of the largest hand-excavated excavations in human history, a monument to loud, frantic, waking ambition. But when the digging finally stopped over a century ago, and the massive crowds peacefully dispersed, the Earth was simply allowed to rest. Over the quiet decades, that massive, exhausting void slowly began to fill with cool, rising natural groundwater. Today, the Kimberley Hole is no longer a dusty, chaotic scar. It is a stunning, impossibly deep lake of vibrant, tranquil turquoise water, its steep, rocky edges softly overgrown with quiet green vegetation. It stands as a monumental, deeply comforting reminder that even the deepest, most exhausting efforts we carve into our days are eventually filled with quiet beauty, returning softly to a state of deep, undisturbed, and lasting peace. And as the calm, turquoise waters of that ancient crater ripple softly in the evening breeze, we are reminded of the countless other ways these enduring stones have gently shaped the quiet, unseen corners of our modern world. In one of those completely unseen, incredibly quiet corners of modern science, the unbreakable nature of the stone is being used not to capture the bright light of a room, but to gently feel the invisible, undulating geography of the microscopic world. In hushed, deeply sterile and heavily insulated laboratories, scientists rely on an astonishing instrument known as an atomic force microscope. When they need to map the physical surface of a single individual atom, they do not use a traditional glass lens or a beam of light. Instead, they use a microscopic splinter of pure diamond, sharpened to a point so unimaginably fine that it ends in just a handful of atoms. This tiny, perfect diamond needle acts much like a cane sweeping softly over an unseen path. It hovers just nanometers above the surface, gently reacting to the faint, invisible magnetic forces of the atoms below. As it smoothly rises and falls over the microscopic hills and valleys of reality, a laser translates its quiet, bobbing movement into a detailed, three-dimensional map. It is a stunning, poetic use of the hardest stone on Earth, utilizing its unyielding strength to softly and patiently read the most delicate, fragile, and fundamental building blocks of the entire physical universe. That concept of a tiny, highly sensitive diamond stylus reading a hidden landscape takes on an even more profound, deeply romantic meaning when we look up from the quiet laboratory and out into the staggering frozen silence of interstellar space. In 1977, humanity launched the Voyager spacecrafts on a one-way journey into the boundless cosmic dark. Bolted safely to the side of these drifting probes is the Golden Record, a gold-plated copper disc holding the soft sounds of our home planet, the rhythmic beating of a human heart, the gentle patter of rain, the distant songs of humpback whales, and quiet spoken greetings in 55 different languages. Waiting patiently beside that golden disc, ready to trace its delicate physical grooves, is a phonograph needle crafted from pure diamond. Engineers chose this ancient, deep earth stone because it is completely immune to the harsh, degrading cosmic rays and the absolute freezing vacuum of deep space. Long after our own oceans have dried and the earth has grown quiet, that single, tiny diamond will continue to drift through the silent void for billions of years, patiently waiting in the dark to act as a flawless, physical translator, holding the dormant, sleeping voice of humanity completely intact. As you picture that tiny, silent needle drifting effortlessly through the frictionless, completely empty vacuum of deep space, allow your own physical body to experience a similarly profound, effortless glide. Notice how the mattress perfectly absorbs the heavy weight of your frame. The joints in your shoulders and your knees are unlocking, unclenching, and smoothing out. You're drifting steadily on a quiet, slow-moving river of stories, entirely unburdened by friction, moving smoothly into the deepest layers of the night. This perfectly smooth, frictionless feeling reveals a quiet, beautiful illusion regarding the diamond's famous slippery surface here on Earth. When you run your thumb over a polished gem, it feels impossibly slick, as if the stone inherently possesses zero physical resistance. However, if you were to take two completely clean diamonds into a sealed vacuum chamber, stripping away all the surrounding air and rub them together, they would suddenly and aggressively stick to one another, grinding and catching like heavy sandpaper. The diamond's famous smoothness in the waking world is not a solitary trait. It is a delicate, continuous collaboration with the atmosphere. Because the carbon atoms at the very surface of the stone have nothing left to bond with, they constantly, quietly, pull a microscopic layer of water vapour and oxygen gas out of the ambient air. The diamond is permanently wearing a microscopic, invisible coat of dew. This impossibly thin, soft layer of atmospheric moisture acts as a perfect, frictionless lubricant. The hardest stone in the world only achieves its smooth, graceful glide by gently wrapping itself in a quiet, floating layer of ordinary water and thin air. The thought of a heavy stone wearing a permanent, invisible coat of dew draws our attention deeply back down into the oldest, coldest, and most profoundly stable sanctuaries of the Earth itself. Diamonds do not simply grow anywhere beneath the crust. They demand a deeply specific environment of absolute, uninterrupted geological peace. They are almost exclusively forged within massive subterranean structures known as cratons. These are the ancient, unmoving hearts of the world's continents, and their deepest, lowest points are beautifully referred to as cratonic keels. These heavy, rocky keels plunge up to 200 miles straight down into the Earth's mantle, acting as colossal, solid anchors. While the outer, shifting edges of the tectonic plates violently collide, slowly tearing apart to form loud oceans and explosive volcanoes, the cratonic keel sits in absolute heavy silence. It is a quiet, cold, unimaginably thick sanctuary of solid rock, where the temperature is surprisingly low and the pressure is astronomically high. Within these deep, protected continental roots, the diamonds can grow slowly and sleep undisturbed for billions of years, safely sheltered from the chaotic, swirling storms of the molten mantle rushing helplessly around them. In the crushing, silent darkness of those ancient continental roots, the carbon atoms align with such absolute, unhurried perfection that they establish a breathtaking, remarkably strict boundary with the light of the surface world. When scientists measure how light travels through different materials, They calculate what is known as the critical angle. This is the exact specific angle at which a ray of light attempting to leave the material is completely blocked and reflected back inside. For ordinary window glass, the critical angle is quite wide, allowing light to easily slip through and pass on. But the dense, heavy architecture of a diamond creates an incredibly tight, narrow optical window. The critical angle of a diamond is precisely 24.4 degrees. It is an exceptionally steep, narrow cone of escape. If a beam of light strikes the internal boundary of the stone at 25 degrees, or any angle wider than that tiny window, the diamond gently denies it an exit. The light hits the invisible, internal wall and bounces perfectly back into the deep centre of the gem. It is a masterpiece of optical containment, a quiet, geometric lesson in how a perfectly aligned structure can capture passing energy, holding the warmth and the light safely inside its own heavy centre. Yet, not every diamond is destined to perfectly trap and cleanly reflect the sharp, brilliant rays of the sun. Some stones possess a beautifully soft, heavily diffused character, holding the quiet, heavy atmosphere of a misty autumn morning entirely within their clear crystal walls. These are known in the gemological world as milky or cloudy diamonds. During their slow, ancient formation in the cratonic keel, millions of submicroscopic invisible inclusions, often tiny, unaligned crystals or microscopic empty voids, are gently trapped inside the carbon lattice. When bright light enters one of these specific stones, it does not bounce cleanly off the mirrored walls. Instead, it strikes these millions of tiny obstacles and scatters softly in every possible direction. The result is a stone that does not flash aggressively, but rather glows with a hazy, ethereal, pearlescent light. Looking deep into a cloudy diamond is like looking into a tiny suspended nebula, or a miniature permanent fog bank resting beautifully in the palm of a hand. They are deeply calming stones, offering a soft, muted and completely unhurried interaction with the light, prioritizing a gentle, glowing atmosphere over sharp, piercing brilliance. Just as that soft internal fog diffuses the harsh light, you can allow the sharp, focused thoughts of your waking day to gently diffuse and soften into a heavy, comforting mist. There is no need for your mind to be perfectly clear or sharply focused right now. You can simply allow the images and the quiet facts to become pleasantly blurry, sinking softly into the deep, heavy, insulated comfort of the night. This feeling of heavy, insulated comfort perfectly mirrors the diamond's role in exploring the most crushing, lightless, and deeply quiet environments remaining on our own planet. While we spoke earlier of the clear diamond window protecting the probe descending into the toxic clouds of Venus, an equally astonishing journey occurs entirely underwater. When marine engineers build unmanned, deep-sea submersibles designed to plunge into the absolute bottom of the Marianas Trench, they face a physical pressure of over 16,000 pounds per square inch. At these impossible depths, the weight of the entire Pacific Ocean is pressing inward from all sides. Ordinary thick glass or quartz viewing ports would instantly implode into a cloud of fine white powder. To safely house the delicate, highly sensitive cameras and light sensors that document the strange, glowing, bioluminescent creatures of the abyssal plane, engineers use wide, perfectly flat, laboratory-grown diamond windows. The thin, transparent stone does not bend, it does not flex, and it does not complain. It sits in total freezing darkness, silently and effortlessly holding back the unimaginable, crushing weight of the deepest ocean on Earth, providing a perfectly clear, safe vantage point into a silent world that has never once known the warmth of the sun. Long before modern human engineering could synthesize those flawless windows to hold back the weight of the deep ocean, medieval artisans engaged with the natural stone using a philosophy of profound, quiet acceptance. In the 14th century, when the very first diamond cutters sat down at their wooden benches in the dim light of early Europe, they did not attempt to force the stone into the complex, multifaceted, blinding shapes we see today. Instead, they practiced a deeply respectful, minimalist art known as the point cut. when they acquired a raw diamond naturally shaped like an 8-sided octahedron, resembling a pair of heavy solid pyramids joined perfectly at their bases, they simply used a wheel heavily coated in olive oil and diamond dust to slowly polish the 8 existing faces. They did not try to carve a new geometry or fundamentally change the heavy soul of the rock. They merely smoothed away the rough frosted skin to reveal the perfect clarity resting just beneath. It was an act of profound, quiet reverence for the Earth's natural architecture. The point cut was a beautiful acknowledgement that sometimes the greatest art is not found in drastically altering a shape, but in gently and patiently polishing the truth that is already resting quietly in your hands. That natural 8-sided architecture, honoured so deeply by those early craftsmen, is not the result of a sudden, violent snap of crystallization, but rather a masterpiece of unimaginable patience and chemical balance. When we think of crystals forming, we often picture a rapid, visible freezing, like ice aggressively spiderwebbing across the surface of a cold winter pond. But the birth of a diamond in the deep mantle is an exercise in profound, almost infinite slowness. The process is governed by a state scientist called thermodynamic equilibrium. Deep within the heavy, carbon-rich soup of the Earth's mantle, the atoms are not rushing. Over millions of years, they are constantly, quietly negotiating their position, shifting back and forth, slowly seeking the lowest possible state of energetic tension. When a carbon atom finally locks into the tetrahedral diamond lattice, it does so because it has found a state of absolute, perfect, unwavering rest. The entire heavy stone is built upon this principle of profound settling. A diamond is the physical manifestation of billions of atoms slowly, patiently finding their most perfectly relaxed, stable orientation. A beautiful reminder that the most enduring, unbreakable strength is born directly from a state of total, undisturbed peace. This deep, structural harmony creates a final hidden layer of vulnerability and grace within the stone, a microscopic secret known to gemologists and physicists as directional hardness, or anisotropy. We universally call the diamond the hardest natural material in the universe, ranking it as a perfect 10 on the Mohs scale. But this absolute statement masks a beautifully subtle truth. The stone is not uniformly stubbornly hard in every single direction. Because of the specific geometric way the carbon atoms hold hands, the bonds are slightly spaced out and slightly more yielding along certain microscopic planes. If you attempt to polish a diamond directly against its natural grain, it is completely invincible, resisting the heavy iron wheel indefinitely. But if the master cutter patiently finds the correct soft direction, the exact angle where the internal atomic structure naturally yields, the diamond allows itself to be shaped, smoothly giving way to the friction. It is a breathtaking, quiet lesson hidden inside the hardest object on Earth. It reveals that true invincibility is not about being a rigid, unyielding wall in every direction. It is about possessing a perfect structural core while still maintaining a beautiful hidden pathway where you're willing to soften, yield, and gracefully change your shape. And as the heavy ancient crystal yields gently along those invisible microscopic pathways, it opens a doorway to even stranger, more mesmerizing transformations hiding quietly in the dark, reminding us that the Earth never truly stops creating its slow, heavy art. That gentle yielding along invisible pathways brings us to one final, beautifully profound truth about these ancient stones, a secret that whispers of the ultimate peace at the end of all things. For generations, humanity has repeated the famous poetic phrase that a diamond is forever. We think of them as the ultimate, unchanging endpoint of physical matter, a permanent, defiant victory over the eroding forces of time. But in the quiet, exacting world of thermodynamics, scientists know that the perfect diamond lattice is not actually the most stable form of carbon on the surface of our planet. That humble title belongs to soft, dark, easily crumbled graphite. Because the heavy, crushing pressure of the deep mantle has been permanently lifted, Every single diamond resting in the sunlight today is actually, on a microscopic atomic level, slowly trying to relax. The tightly wound, invincible carbon bonds are infinitesimally, incredibly slowly attempting to unfold. They are quietly releasing their incredible tension, seeking to become soft graphite once more. But this unwinding is so profoundly slow, so incredibly patient, that it completely defies human comprehension. For a clear, faceted diamond to fully exhale and transition completely back into soft, dark graphite, it would require a span of time billions of times longer than the current age of the entire universe. It is an active, ongoing physical process that is happening right now in the quiet velvet boxes and the silent, temperature-controlled museum vaults of the world. But it is moving at a pace of such absolute, staggering stillness that it simply registers as eternity to us. It is a stunning, deeply comforting realization. The hardest, most invincible stone is not a frozen dead thing. It is simply taking the longest, slowest, and most peaceful exhale in the cosmos. It is slowly letting go of its tension, returning gently to a state of absolute softness, taking all the time in the universe, long after the stars have faded, to finally truly rest. Just like the quiet, ancient stone, taking its unimaginable time to slowly release its tension in the dark, you too can finally completely let go. Our long, meandering journey through the deep earth, across the roaring ancient rivers, and up into the freezing, silent expanse of the stars has finally come to an end. The gentle river of stories we have been floating on is slowly coming to a halt. The water is becoming perfectly still, smooth as dark glass, reflecting nothing but the quiet, peaceful night sky. You do not need to remember the heavy, crushing pressure of the mantle. You do not need to hold on to the microscopic geometry of the light, the invisible layers of the earth, or the ancient drifting fires of a dying star. Those facts were just quiet companions, gentle voices walking softly beside you, guiding you away from the waking day and toward the soft edge of sleep. You can simply let them all drift away now. Allow every image, every number, and every distant world to sink softly to the bottom of your mind, like smooth, heavy stones settling peacefully into the deep, dark sand. Bring your awareness softly, gently back to the quiet, comforting weight of your own resting body. Feel the solid, unwavering way you're perfectly supported by the bed beneath you. There is no more travelling to do tonight. There is nothing left to figure out. There is nowhere else you need to be. The day is entirely complete, its sharp edges polished away into a smooth, easy calm. The world outside this quiet room has stopped spinning, and it can patiently wait for tomorrow. Let your shoulders drop a fraction deeper into the mattress. Let your jaw soften. Feel the tiny muscles around your eyes entirely relax, smoothing out completely. Notice your breath. It is a slow, steady tide, rising gently in the quiet dark. Falling softly back down into complete stillness. Each exhale carries you a little further away. Each inhale is just a soft, natural rhythm, keeping time with the peaceful night. The mind is completely quiet now. The thoughts have smoothed out, perfectly flat and unbothered. The silence in the room is a heavy, warm blanket, wrapping safely and securely around you, drifting down, sinking deeper. The weight of the world is completely gone. There is only rest, pure, deep, uninterrupted rest. You're perfectly safe, you're deeply comfortable, you're entirely at peace, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.